I was just 11 home alone. Every Christmas while my parents were off with their friends. At 25 I gave them the speech I practiced my whole life. Original post. I found out when I was around 12 that my parents liked to play around, if you can call it that. I did not get until I was around 14 what that really meant. Anyways, I kept my mouth shut and focused on myself and moved out when I was 18, and we have barely spoken since. I ended up becoming very insecure. I struggled when it came to dating and girls and was alone for most of my teens. Mom and Dad were this perfect couple that was well liked by everyone. All I can remember is how alone I felt during that time, and was too afraid to speak to my parents about how I had it. They were always smiling, and seemed to have the perfect marriage while they saw other people, while I felt alone and miserable. They used to go on weekend trips and were alone for many weekends, and they rarely brought me along for vacations, and I ended up being on my own when they did as well. I struggle with depression, and started seeing a therapist, and am on antidepressants right now. I just felt like I did not matter to my parents at all, and see no real reason for why I should talk to them now. I have not celebrated Christmas with them, or not been at home since I was 19, because I honestly have nothing but bad memories from living with them. I just felt like I was in the way. Not sure what I should do here. My emotions are all over the place. I don't think they know I struggle with depression. Update 1. I tried posting this earlier. But yeah, some other things have also happened, so wanted to add that as well. I decided to write a letter but ended up using that letter as reference to what I wanted to say to them instead. I wrote the letter and actually just planned to drop in their mailbox and just let them read it. But honestly, after so many years I needed to have the conversation with them, so I did. So I went home, and surprise surprise, Dad and Mom had a friend over, the woman who I ran into a few days ago. Let's call her Claire. They were just sitting in the living room just talking. I asked Claire politely to leave because I needed to speak to my parents. She said sure, and she left. My parents understood I had something to discuss, and they did not argue. Apparently they were talking about me, and Claire actually came over because she was worried about me after I basically ignored her the other day when I ran into her. I sat down with my parents, and had the letter I had written, and they understood I had a lot to say. The whole thing was weird. I sounded like a prosecutor trying to convince a jury of all my parents' wrongdoings. It ended up being a 40-minute indictment of my parents. I went through all of it, how alone I felt. Me struggling with depression. Me seeing a therapist, on antidepressants. Me feeling since I was 11 that was always in the way. That I never mattered to them, and that other people were always more important. How Claire, who was 25, the same age I am now when she started hanging around with you, actually gave more of a damn than you did. How you, Dad, yelled at me when I messed up the settings on the dishwasher while you were away. I was 11 and did not know how it worked, and that I offered to wash them by hand, which I did. I was bullied in school and was socially awkward, had no friends and was always alone both at school and at home. I was 11 and had to deal with being alone on the weekends, even though Christmas was weird and awkward. I remember seeing families light Christmas trees in our street, seeing parents and their kids. But you guys went to your Christmas get-togethers and only on Christmas Day were you home, and I honestly felt alone then as well. I have no such memories or felt any belonging whatsoever, and now you keep asking me why I have barely spoken to you for 4 years? I don't know you and you never bothered to get to know me. Other people were always more important. When I found out and understood what you guys were into, I was even more mad. Why was that more important than me? How is it fair that you are happy and I am alone and miserable? It's not fair because you did this to me. I have spent my childhood alone, my teens alone, and now my 20s alone. So far I never had a girlfriend because I struggle to trust people, and have no idea how to get close to people. You shared a picture of me on Facebook. One of the few of us together from when I was a kid, saw Claire and your other girlfriend comment on how cute I was, and what a great family we were. Notice anything in those pictures? I never smiled. Why did you even have me to begin with? Clearly I was just a prop for you to show off to let others know what great parents you were. Your Facebook profiles makes me sick, to be honest. Dad wanted to say something and Mom just looked stunned, and she had tears. I just got up and left, and that was that. I never yelled or called them any names. I was surprisingly calm. I honestly felt numb walking out, but also a lot lighter. I left my spare key to their place, and just walked back to my place. Mom has been texting and trying to call me. I think they are both struggling on what to say to me. I just demanded they remove the pictures of me from their FB, which they did. They do not get to pretend to the world like they were great parents anymore. I refuse to be a prop. So that's the update. Still gonna continue with my therapists, or may need to find a new one. Update 2. Just wanted to give an update and thank you for all the comments. I decided to switch therapists, and the new one is better than my old one. Still dealing with anxiety and feeling very lonely sometimes, but trying to get through the day. Had a long talk with my mom, who actually decided to stop by my place. She and I talked for almost 3 hours. I decided not to berate her, and instead just be honest and explain how my life has been and how I am dealing with a bunch of things. It was as honest as it could get with me, basically just sharing how I was doing. Mom did not realize how bad it was, and she just gave me a hug. I don't know why, but that helped. She was not sure what to say about everything, and I don't really blame her. She said come home for a while, especially at Christmas. You don't have to sit in your apartment alone. Told her I would think about it. Mom looks like she finally realized that I had been in pain for quite some time, and her recognizing that is, I guess, what I really wanted, like she finally got it. So yeah, progress. I guess still not sure what the future holds. Still feel very apathetic, and my anxiety can get the best of me sometimes, and have had days I feel very low, like nothing matters anymore. But I guess it's a step in the right direction. This is a repost sub. I am not the oop. Story 2. Am I the asshole for cutting off my parents because they plan on leaving almost everything to my disabled brother? Original post. My 24 female brother, 32 male, is a failure to launch. He's never been very smart. He did badly in school, and never went to college. He tried 2 different trade schools, welding and mechanic, but he basically flunked out of both. He works at a gas station now. My brother and I are our parents' only children. They always treated us relatively equal, until adulthood. They always insisted we earn our own way. They refused to pay for college or anything. I joined the military at 17, got an associate's degree while I was in, and my GI Bill went towards my bachelor's. I'm working towards my master's now. My husband and I have bought a house, and have done well for ourselves. My parents, however, fully paid for my brother to try trade school twice. They've given him cash when he was behind on rent, and countless loans. They support him cosplaying as an adult. Meanwhile, they never paid for my wedding, education, nothing. I don't really care so much that they didn't give me money, but the disparity in how they've treated me versus my brother. Our parents are in their 60s now, and while they aren't that old, they're both in bad health and probably won't live another 10 years. They just recently started working on their will, and notified us that they were leaving almost everything to my brother. But they want me to be their medical power of attorney, manage their estate, etc. I told my parents to give my brother everything, and that I'm completely done with them. They told me to have some grace, and understand the fact that he isn't very capable, and needs their support, even after they're gone. My mother had a doctor's appointment this morning, and asked me for a ride since she medically can't work. I told her to ask her favorite child or pay for an Uber. Things have been tense and hostile. My brother called me to apologize and asked me to not be mad at him, but I told him that I'm not mad at him. I'm mad at our parents for not treating us equally, and he didn't do anything wrong. Am I the asshole? I meant to put disabled in quotation marks. My mother refers to my brother as disabled, even though he isn't. She's had him tested for every kind of learning disability there is. He just has a below-average IQ. She thinks that counts as a disability when it isn't. AITA has no consensus bot. OOP received mixed reactions. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. He does not sound disabled to me if he went to 2 different trade schools, welding and mechanic, just lazy. Odds are if he gets the money it'll not last him long, then he'll be looking to you to pay his bills. OOP. He's not disabled, but he's very unintelligent and has poor critical thinking skills. He doesn't really understand how to manage money at all, despite having been taught how. How is OOP's brother disabled? Medical issues, etc. OOP. He's not. He's just unintelligent. I meant to put disabled in quotation marks. My mother refers to him as disabled, but he's been tested and has no actual disabilities. My mother thinks being dumb is a disability. Commenter 2. If his IQ is that low, he is intellectually disabled. An IQ below 75 is considered intellectually impaired. It doesn't excuse the implied favoritism. OOP. When they had us tested, mine was 131 I believe, and his was around 80. It's been so many years I'm having a hard time remembering. It definitely was above the cutoff for being considered intellectually disabled, because I remember them being surprised that he scored above it. Did OOP plan to take care of her parents when they get old? I originally was going to take care of them in their old age, but I now have decided they're going to a nursing home if it's up to me. I'm done. Commenter 3. But they want me to be their medical power of attorney, manage their estate, etc. This is a huge ask, even if you stood to inherit. That you're expected to do all the heavy lifting, and then be your brother's keeper after they pass it's a hell of a lot. Why can't OOP's brother live with their parents to take care of them? OOP. They don't want to ask him. He's forgetful, and they probably wouldn't be able to rely on him anyways. Update 2. Hey. So the consensus on my post was a bit of a mixed bag. I sat down with my parents and I wanted to give an update and answer some stuff. My brother is not actually disabled. He just has a low IQ, just over 80. You need an IQ under 70 where I live to be considered disabled, and to qualify for any sort of benefits. My parents have babied him because from a young age, he wasn't as smart as other kids, and had a low self-esteem because of that, and was quick to give up on things when they seemed too hard. He does okay on his own now. He works and pays his bills most of the time. He drives and lives with a roommate. On to the update, I sat down with my parents and explained that I've always felt like they treated me worse than my brother. They always emphasized to me that as an adult, you need to support yourself, and figure things out on your own. I had to join the military at 17, because I knew they'd kick me out when I was 18. My parents never offered me any support outside of raising me as a child. They didn't buy my husband and I a wedding gift. They didn't offer much of anything. Meanwhile, they brag about having over $1 million in the bank, and having succeeded from nothing. Meanwhile, they paid to put my brother through 2 trade schools that he failed out of, and offered him money to start his own business. They've always bailed him out when he was short on rent. For me, it's not so much about the money, but about the disparity in how we've been treated. It's obvious that they loved and cared for him more, because they were willing to do these things for him, and not me. But despite them not being there for me, I've still done really well in life. I told my parents about all of this, and they were interrupting me and talking over me the whole time. They told me I'm not entitled to a dime when they die, and that I'm an adult and I can handle myself. They just weren't understanding or even caring about my point. They told me I need to step up and treat them better, and that it's wrong of me to not take my sick mother to the doctor, or take care of her because of money. Eventually I just gave up on trying to talk about my feelings. They just don't care. I told them that they're adults, and they're not entitled to anything from me. Just like how they were never required to help me, I'm not required to help me. I told them to completely remove me from their will. I'm not willing to be their estate executor, medical power of attorney, nothing. I don't want a dime from them at this point, and I suggested they spend all the money they've saved over the years to pay for really good nursing homes, and an estate executor, because I'm no longer willing to do anything for them. My mother was floored, and asked if I'd really put my own parents in a nursing home. I asked if they'd really let their 17-year-old daughter join the army to get sexually harassed by older men, in order to go to school without taking on a huge debt. My parents cried and yelled at me, and I left. And that's that, I guess. I kind of feel relieved, like a massive weight is off my shoulders. I have a wonderful husband, we own a nice home. I'm getting ready to start working on my master's degree, and we're thinking about maybe having a baby soon. I no longer have to worry about dealing with my parents. They're adults, and they can deal with their own problems, just like I've done with mine. And yeah, that's it. Not sure if it's the update we wanted, but it is what it is. Too long, didn't read. My parents wanted to leave almost everything to my older brother because he's not as successful in life. I feel like my parents have always favored him over me. My parents don't care about my feelings and won't listen to them. So I told them our relationship is over. I don't want anything from them at this point, and I'm moving on. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Honestly, I would have cut them off at the wedding if they had $1 million and didn't even give me a $20 vase or something. Who shows up to a wedding empty-handed? Oop. I've been to a lot of weddings, and I would never show up without a wedding gift. It's rude. Not to mention my in-laws actually paid for the entire wedding, And my cheap parents became a major talking point. It was very embarrassing. Commenter 2. Not the asshole. Your parents are the assholes. I know this might be a sucky suggestion, but you may need to go NC with your brother as well. He'll be stuck with their care, and there's going to be a high likelihood they'll tell him to reach out to you for help. Or your brother may take the easy way out and stick them in a nursing home, which they totally deserve. Oopie. My brother's not a terrible guy. He makes bad choices sometimes, but at the end of the day he's still my older brother, and he tries to be good to me. I wouldn't cut him off without a good reason. Commenter 3. Not the asshole. I like how they told you that you're an adult and not entitled to their help, and you threw those words right back in their faces. Commenter 4. They tell you they're not leaving you a dime, yet expect you to care for them in their old age, drive them places and handle the estate when they die? Do they not see how ludicrous they are? Commenter 5. They've spent so long using you as their personal doormat, they're not even able to break from their delusion that you'll keep presenting your face for them to step on. Congrats on your newfound freedom. This is a repost sub. I am not, oop. Thanks for watching and diving into this wild family drama with me. If you love Reddit family drama, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. My mother abandoned me, then screamed I was the biggest mistake of her life. Now I'm fighting for custody of my baby sister. Original post. Hi, first time posting. I, 16 male, was born when my parents were very young. Like my mother was 16 and my father was 17. Both families decided it would be the best for me if effectively my maternal grandparents raised me and my bio parents got to live their lives. That is not to say I didn't know who my actual parents were. This is not one of those situations like in movies where the mother pretends the daughter's child is actually her own. And everyone knew who my progenitors were. My father moved away when he was 18, but my mother remained in my grandparents' house until she was 23, and I was around 7. But that doesn't mean we were close. She always treated me more like an annoying little brother rather than a son. She didn't like spending time with me, never attended any of my school functions, or showed interest in my academic work, or took me to do any fun activities. Whenever I was talking about my day, she would roll her eyes or change the topic to shut me up. When she moved out, I barely saw her. She just came to family gatherings and said an awkward hi, and did not even look at me. It hurt even if by that point I already considered my grandparents to be more my parents than her. My father was still living away, they weren't together at this point, but would come once or twice a year to visit his own family around the holidays, and always made it a point to visit me and take me to do some sort of fun activities like going to the cinema or my favorite restaurant, things like that. But to me he was more like an estranged man than a dad, because when I compared him to my friends' fathers who picked them up from school every day, and went to their games and played with them on the weekends, I didn't understand why this man who I saw maybe twice a year was supposed to be the same. Anyway, fast forward to a year ago. My father moved back to the same city where we live. He tried to hang out with me more often, but I wasn't really interested, although sometimes I complied. I don't hate him, I just don't know him. I even had a bedroom in his apartment, which is cool, because he lives in the center of the city. Behind everyone's back, both my parents had started to hang out, and a couple months later they announced they were dating. It was a shock. They asked me to move in with them to my father's apartment, which I refused, but they argued that we could finally be a family. I was about to start an argument with them, when my grandma just said that changing school districts would be very inconvenient, and I could lose all my friends, and the situation de-escalated by itself, although my parents didn't let go of the idea. My parents asked for me to spend more time with them. And this was particularly frustrating because even though I never had any particular tension with my father, I most definitely do with my mother. I don't like being around her, and she's treated me poorly my whole life, and I feel like she's now only trying to save face because she knows my dad wants me there. Now on to the issue. Last week they both came into my grandparents' house. They announced they were going to buy a house nearby in the neighborhood so that I can finally move in with them. I immediately said no, and when they said that changing schools would no longer be an issue, I found myself in a corner, and I said that was never the problem, and that I just simply don't see them as my parents, and don't want to live with them. That's when they dropped the bomb on us. Not only they wanted me to move in with them so we could be a family, but my mother was pregnant, so we were going to be a bigger family even. I was shocked, and I blew my lid on them. I told them they were the worst parents in the world, and that they abandoned me for 16. And now they were going to bring another child into the world, and do the same to them. And they never apologized for treating me like garbage. And like a mistake they made, and making me feel like I wasn't supposed to exist, and dumping me to be other people's responsibility. And only now that they feel like they care, they want to be my family. My mother screamed back at me telling me I was a brat, and that she wasn't going to make the same mistakes twice raising her second baby. And I told her she never raised me to begin with, and my father said that they were young and trying to do the best they could. Well, guess what? The best you could was pretty effing bad. I stormed out and went to my sobbing. I have been very depressed for the last week. They have both called and texted since, but I ignored them. My grandparents agree with me that I shouldn't move and that my parents shouldn't expect me to be all loving and forgiving after how they've treated me. However, they believe they are starting a new chapter of their lives now that they are more mature and stable, which I guess leaves me behind. I've also had time to think that I'm the same age my mother was when she had me, and what a huge responsibility that must have been. However, I still can't forgive them. Am I an asshole for the way I reacted to the news? Edit. Thank you everyone for the verdict of not the asshole. I feel better and it has somewhat cleared my mind. Also huge thank you to all that are commenting about how awesome my grandparents are. I'm planning on showing them this post so they can see how much everyone can see the amazing kind of people they are, and they deserve all the love and appreciation I could possibly give them and more. I've also come to the conclusion that I have a lot of resentments and unanswered questions, as well as misgivings about the future that I need to set straight with primarily my father. He needs to know how I grew up, and I need to know why he abandoned me. I also feel like I need to warn him about my mother because I am worried about my sibling being abandoned and mistreated like I was, so I'm preparing a list of points and questions that I want to bring up to him, and we'll meet tomorrow, or the day after, and I'll confront him with all of these to hopefully get some sort of closure or resolution. Relevant comments. More information on relationship with mom and dad. My father really wants us to be a happy family. When the three of us are together, you can see him beaming with joy, like he can't actually stop himself from smiling and making comments like, "This is everything one could possibly want," and stuff like that. I think probably my mother has sold him a completely different story on what our relationship was growing up when he left, and he doesn't seem to notice the tension between me and her. As far as my living arrangements, they would have to pull me screaming out of my grandparents, and they signed away their parental rights sometime after I was born. So I don't think they even have a legal foot to stand on if it came to that, but I just hope they can come to respect my decision. When you're ready, consider meeting your dad alone to find out information from him. I was thinking that too. I want to have a conversation with my father mostly about my concerns about my mother and what to do moving forward. The more I think about this, the more I'm scared about my little sibling, because I'm not sure how my mother would take care of them. I'm starting to feel like there's a lot of things that I don't know about the time when I was born, and why I was effectively abandoned, because my other set of grandparents, paternal, don't live far away, and I see them occasionally, but it's always more uncomfortable with them. They have other children and grandchildren, whereas my mother is an only child. So when I visit them, I feel like the odd one out, because I'm usually alone in a big family environment. But about why my dad didn't reach out to me, I don't know, and I want to confront him about that. As far as I'm aware, when he was away, he didn't keep much contact with my mother either. This is just since he came back. That's why I feel like I need to talk with him and set things straight, because I feel so lost honestly. There is no consensus on am I the asshole, but a majority of comments were, not the asshole. Update post 1. Hi everyone, thank you all for the responses, it really helped a lot. It's been an emotional couple of days and a lot has happened. My mind is a little bit dispersed, but I felt like I owed you all an update, and I'm doing to try and be as clear as possible. For those of you who didn't read my OP, the gist of it basically was that my 16-year-old parents had me when they were very young. 16-year-old female, 17-year-old male. They got separated and left me to be raised by my maternal grandparents. My mother was around, but couldn't care less about me. But my dad went away, and we had very sporadic but positive contact. Now he's come back, they're back together, they're having a new baby, and want me back into their lives. I refused and told them they're horrible and shouldn't have kids, which brings us to the OP. First of all, I shared my post with my grandparents and they were so surprised by it. They were very happy to see how many people commented about how amazing they are. And I, in turn, also took the opportunity to tell them how much I loved them, and how much I appreciated everything they had ever done for me. They are my real parents, and nothing is ever going to change that. There were some tears, and they told me they loved me, and how proud they were of me. They never thought of themselves as doing something special or worth so much appreciation. They were just taking care of family, but they are the best. After that, I started trying to collect my thoughts and arranging a meeting with my father to discuss the things that were bothering me. Why did he abandon me? Why did he think he could just reappear into my life like that? That I wasn't going to move in with them, and I didn't consider them my parents because they never acted as such, etc. We met at a park and he went to hug me, but I stepped away and he looked hurt, and he just apologized for what happened the other day, and went into this speech about how we could try to transition into living together part-time, and respect my boundaries. And I went blank. I didn't expect for him to talk. So I pulled out my phone and just showed him the post I made the other day, and he started reading it in silence. After a while he read it all and some responses, and he just asked me if this was true, and I said yes. And he asked me if I had questions he would answer honestly. I asked what happened when I was born, and he told me that when my mother got pregnant, all options were laid on the table. Abortion, adoption, marriage, Gramps taking care of me, only one of my parents taking me in. My mother was deadly scared of adoption. Editor's note. Contextually, I think OOP meant abortion here, but someone else pointed out it could be adoption in this comment, so you decide. Because some religious group had told them some horror story about dead babies and mothers being killers or some bees like that. So she wanted to give me up for adoption, but my father refused. He couldn't bear the idea of having his child living somewhere and never seeing him again. So he proposed to taking me in as sole caretaker and leaving his college plans to stay in our city. But his parents weren't thrilled with this plan, and pushed him to go to college so that he could provide economically for me. They offered themselves to take care of me, but they were significantly older than my maternal grandparents. She was an only child and, at the time, they were just 40, whereas my father has 5 older siblings and his parents were already in their 60s. And since taking care of me meant taking care of my mother for a while as well, my maternal grandparents decided it was the best decision for them to take me. Also, immediately after I was born, my mother had postnatal depression, and the doctors advised them to not completely remove them from her side, or more damage to our relationship could be done, and my grandparents wanted her to eventually love me as a son. One thing to note about my father that I didn't mention in my OP is that even when he was in college he worked part-time to pay child support, and once he started working in a law firm, he started sending more money to my grandparents and set up a college fund for me, which was news for me. My grandparents don't know about this, but my mother does, so I don't know what to do with this information. My father thought of me all the time he spent away, and believed he had left me with a happy family, and that he was working to give me a better life. But I followed his life through social media. He went to parties, vacations, had girlfriends and did lots of fun stuff, and barely had any contact with me. I asked him why couldn't have he made more of an effort to be a part of my life. Like, I understand if he needed to study in another city and work there, but it's no effort to call or text. Coming once a year just doesn't cut it. He looked ashamed and apologized to me, and I took advice that I saw in a lot of the comments here, that I would forgive but not forget, and that maybe we can build a relationship going forward, but it will always be marked by his actions in the past. If he hasn't been my dad for 16 years, he can't start now. He seemed sad but accepted my conditions. I then told him about my concerns about my mother, told him how bad he treated me as a child, that I did not think she would be a good mother for my sibling, and that I wanted to go no contact with her. He said that after he left for college and they broke up, he would call her once in a while to check up on things. But that quickly ended, and when he came back, she explained to him that her and I had a great bond, and even though we didn't see each other daily, it was because I was in those teenage years, and that she loved spending time with me, and had been a very hands-on mom. I told him that all that she said was a lie and that she never cared for me. He obviously read the stuff from my post, but I also told him other things, like when she would ask my grandparents babysitting money for taking care of me, or that she would call me annoying or disgusting to my face when we still lived together, and that severely messed me up. He was very serious, and said he would talk to her, but that he really would not allow a child to be treated like that, and that he was sorry for letting that happen to me. Lastly, he told me I would have a bedroom in his house, but he understood perfectly that I would never live there. He was quite emotional at this point, and got choked up at this point when he asked me if, even if I didn't consider him my father, I would consider his baby my sibling. I said of course that I planned to be a very active part in their life if I could. He started crying, and asked if he could hug me, and this time I agreed. I am happy about the resolution of our conversation, and I really do believe he will be a good parent for my sibling. Once again, thanks to everyone who commented and took interest in my story. I don't know if I'll update again. Relevant comments. Find out who has the college money. My father has it. I have no idea why my bio mother kept the info from us, but my father stressed that the money was for me, except she's back with him and could lie about it. I mean, I'm just assuming here, but for sure he's the main provider in the household, and I know he's been giving her all sorts of expensive gifts and stuff now that they live together, but that's not my problem, and I don't care. I didn't even know about these college funds until yesterday, so whatever happens between these two, honestly, is their business. As long as my grandparents or my siblings are not affected, he might as well buy her a diamond necklace with it. Your grandparents are great, but should have protected you from your mother better. It was hard for them, and I assure you at every possible turn they have taken my side and have scolded my mother for her treatment towards me. And taken measures about it, even forcing her to go to therapy. And they made it really clear to me explicitly, that I was like a son to them, and they wouldn't choose her daughter over me. Especially after seeing how she treated me. But it's hard for them because they love her child support payments. The monthly child support went and still goes to my grandparents. Is the college fund that only she knew about. But that money my father said only he has control over. But I didn't know it existed, and I'm not particularly worried about it. I've never considered my father as a provider. And I've been making plans about my future in my head without this money always, and it's nice to know I have this now, but if it weren't here, I would find my way. Update Post 2. So, a lot of you warned me about the shit hitting the fan, sort of speaking, when my bio mother talked with my dad, and today that's exactly what happened. My father sent me a text early in the morning warning me about the fact that he was going to confront my mother, and that he didn't want anything to splash to me, and reassured me that he believed me completely, and I braced myself because I expected for her to call me berating me or something. I truly don't care about what she thinks, but these past few days have been emotionally draining, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for another full-blown-out confrontation. Using Reddit to vent has been helpful though. After a few hours, my mother pulled into our house and let herself in screaming like mad, and calling me every name in the book, saying I had ruined her relationship, and asking me, why had I been blabbing about private matters that don't concern anybody? I said that my childhood matters to me and my father, who is also going to be the future father of her child, and that her actions ruined her relationship. She called me an asshole, and said I was the biggest fucking mistake she's ever done in her life. I didn't know she could still hurt me, but that was a low blow. And I said that I would do anything in my power to take her baby away from her because she was a monster of a mother. We were screaming at this point, and my grandparents, who were in the backyard, must have heard us, and entered the room and separated us and heard part of the fight. I was fighting tears, and my grandma walked me upstairs to my room, as my grandpa screamed to my mother how dared speak to me that way. My grandma soothed me a little, and then went to confront my mother with my grandpa. I heard from the door how they ripped my mother a new one. They confronted her for telling me the things that she did, for treating me like garbage all my life, and for lying to my father. They told her how disappointed they were in her, for always treating me with disgust, and how many excuses they made for her, thinking she was a child trying to raise a child, but she was now an adult, and her behavior continued the same. And they said they were on the path of disinheriting her. My mother was screaming about how hard it had been for her and how much she hurt. But my grandparents were having none of that. They raised me, and she was allowed to have the life she wanted, and to take all the decisions she wanted without repercussions ever. And I even heard them say that if there was any custody battle ensued over the baby to come, they would take the father's side, unless she radically changed everything about her behavior. They went outside for a while, so I don't know what they said, but eventually, they came into my room, and my grandparents looked extremely serious, and my mother was red and crying and apologized to me through gritted teeth. I didn't respond, but my grandparents said on her behalf that she was going to start therapy immediately, and she was no longer welcome in the house. I called my father after the debacle, and he was furious. He talked to my mother before going to a work meeting thing or something, and he confronted her about everything. Apparently it was nasty, but he was willing to work on the relationship for the good of the baby, on the condition that my mother would also be working on improving her relationship with me, so that whenever I visited them, I wouldn't feel uncomfortable. After he left, he made her promise she wouldn't contact me until they talked again. But there's my mother for you folks. I asked him to think about what's better for himself and for the baby, and to not hold today against my mother if he doesn't want to. Also, a thing that has come up a lot in the comments of my previous posts is that my progenitors only want me as a babysitter, and that I should steer away from them and baby for my own sake, but I want to make a point about that. I can't say anything about their intentions. I know nothing about that. But I am really very excited to have a sibling. Growing up, I had a very small family. It was just my grandparents and me. On my paternal side, I had a huge family with aunts, uncles, and cousins. But whenever I went there, I always felt like the odd one out. They tried to include me and invited me for Easter, Christmas, BBQs and stuff. But I didn't really know them, and although they were nice, I always felt like I had a big sign on my head that said, "That kid John had in high school." I can't wait to have a sibling and love them, and always be there for them, and show them what a family is. I want to be that person they can always rely on for them. And I want to feel that bond with someone, so even if I have my misgivings about my parents, and I do, a lot, I do not about being a big brother. I hope this is the last update and there is no more family drama in the future. Thank you all for all your help. Having this site to air out my frustrations and having a community to back me up and give me feedback has been amazing. And you truly have helped me out a lot to deal with all of this, so really thank you so much. Update Post 3. Hi everyone. I posted a few months back about my situation, and I just saw someone put my story in TikTok LOL, so I checked back this account, and saw that I still had some notifications asking for an update, so here it is. Well, first of all, my grandparents are as cool as ever. I have not moved, nor I intend to. And we spent Christmas together, it was all great. My father and I have bonded more, and we are in a better place. He is paying for my therapy, and we've done a couple of sessions together, and we're in a much better place. He feels sorry for having lost my childhood years, but understands that I cannot get them back. And instead of pushing a relationship with me, he is letting me have my space to build as much of a relationship that I want with him, which takes the pressure off of me tbh. We've kind of bonded over my little sister. We found out is going to be a girl. And I helped him paint the nursery and build the furniture, which I enjoyed a lot. He and my egg donor are in a bit of a weird situation. They live together, but they're not together. My father is extremely angry about everything that she did and said to me when I was little, and what I related in my previous post, and he is weary about what kind of person she really is going to be with my baby sister. They are going to couples therapy and individual therapy, and, although I see her at passing, because I sometimes go to my father's house, she is just barely polite with me, and I can tell she feels like I'm the one who screwed up her opportunity to play house with her second baby. I try to pay her no mind, but the only thing that worries me is if she eventually is going to poison my little sister's mind against me, or subject her to a similar mistreatment, like she did to me, because she is also going to be born around all this tension. The silver lining is that everyone else is showing up for my little sister. And that means I've also connected much more with my father's side of the family. They've always been kind to me, but I always felt weird around them. But now that things with my father seem to be settling into a more comfortable way, I feel like I belong into his family more, and I can hang out with my cousins and aunts and uncles more. Sorry if it's not much of an update, but here's how things lay at the moment. Update Post 4. So it's been a while, but recent developments have brought me back here to give you all a bit of an update. First of all, thank you to everyone who has messaged me and shown me that my situation and I are in their minds. It helps a lot. To do a bit of recap, and avoid all of you going through the entire saga, my parents had me in their teens. They left me to be raised by my maternal grandparents, which turned out to be the perfect family for me. My egg donor was somewhat in my life growing up, but she was nasty and toxic to me. My dad was absent most of the time, but he was a more positive force on my life. They got together about 2 years ago, and tried to make me, now 17 meters, move in with them, to which I refused, and they also announced they were expecting, which sent me off, and I lashed out at them. That opened the Pandora's box of lies and manipulation that my egg donor had been feeding my father for years, and created an overall messy situation with her blaming me for everything. Me and my father have been developing a stronger relationship, and we've become quite close, although I still have some barriers up. My egg donor has been giving me the cold shoulder for the remainder of the pregnancy, and my father was considering whether or not to try and continue the relationship. This brings us to present times. They had a daughter named Ella who is the most beautiful, charming, and cute baby I have ever seen. My father was ecstatic when she was being delivered and asked me if I wanted to remain in the hospital during the labor, which I happily agreed to. It was amazing to see my sister for the first time, and me and my father both cried while holding her. My egg donor on the other hand looked at her with little care, and tried to pass her off to whoever was around so she wouldn't have to hold her. The relationship of my parents at this moment was on thin ice, but the maternal spirit that my mother thought she would develop with this child never materialized. Thanks for watching and diving into this wild family drama with me. If you love Reddit family drama, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. An old friend of mine has been acting inappropriately towards my daughter. I am taking steps to protect her. The last few months I've been chatting to a friend more regularly than before. We've been friends for over a decade and we used to be really close, but we slowly drifted apart. I should probably mention we are both men in our 40s. It's been great catching up with him, and honestly I really needed a friend, so it's just been great. He's got a long-term girlfriend and 2 young children. A couple of months ago we visited his house for the first time. He recently moved and we weren't speaking much before that, just an occasional comment on Facebook. And me, my 14-year-old son and 20-year-old daughter spent a few hours honestly just chatting about nothing, but in a good way, you know. While we were there I noticed that he kept looking at my daughter out of the corner of his eye. I never really caught him fully looking, so I thought nothing of it, especially as he has known my kids for over a decade. I didn't mention it to my daughter as I didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable if it was nothing. A couple of months went past and we visited them again. He kept talking to my daughter and not really to me, which is fine, but it just seemed odd when my daughter has really bad anxiety, and she can't really hold a conversation, and she makes it clear when she's uncomfortable talking. He just seemed to keep looking at her and talking. Even if he was talking to me, he would just look at her. The final straw was last week. We visited them and we've been having a heat wave, so we were all dressed in as minimal as possible. My daughter in a thin pair of skirts and a t-shirt, my son in a pair of athletic shorts and a gym top, and me in a polo shirt and white chino shorts. Nothing unusual, just basic summer wear. When we were in conversation he would look at my daughter. When anyone told a joke he would smirk a little or give a small laugh depending, but if my daughter told something mildly funny he would really laugh to the point that even she would look awkward. He kept dropping out of conversation and just staring at her. I think she noticed it as well because she started to lean back in her chair to try to cover herself. Even though she was fine. She looked uncomfortable. Then when the sun set she put on a thick jacket and zipped it up. I don't know if he's just trying to be friendly and he doesn't know how to act, or if he's only inviting us round to stare at her, and if so then I don't know what to do. Yes, she's 20 but she's still my little girl and this man watched her grow up. It just seems strange. I don't know if I should say something or just don't go around there again. Either way, I think it's the end of the friendship, which is a shame, but oh well. Update. Edits at the end of post update from my last post. I spoke to my daughter about the whole thing and wanted to know what she thought about it all because I didn't want to say anything if she didn't think it was odd. She told me that after the first time we saw him again, a few months ago, he had appeared outside her work after she finished her shift and asked if she wanted a lift home instead of getting the bus. She said that since he was a good friend of mine she trusted him and got in his car. On the ride home he repeatedly touched her leg and started talking about how much she's changed since he saw her last, before we all met up, and how much of an adult she looks now. He told her she's growing into her body like a good girl. My daughter said that she would walk the rest of the way home because she didn't want to put him out too much, but he insisted on driving her all the way. She said she kept moving away from him but he was leaning to touch her knees. She said that at a red light not long before the house he gave her his mobile number and texted himself from her phone and told her to call him if she wanted a lift or anything else. Then when she got home she went to leave the car but he grabbed her arm and asked her where his hug and kiss goodbye was. Not a new thing, he gives us all a hug every time. And when she leaned in he held her tight and whispered that she should call him. In the last few months since then he has repeatedly been sending her explicit texts and images and waiting outside her work asking her if she would like a lift home, even though every time she said no. She said she didn't want to say anything because she didn't want to upset me as he was the only friend I had. I feel sick thinking about this. This is my daughter. She's 20 but she's still my little girl and I feel like I've put her in danger. I've messaged him asking him to stop contacting my family and I've sent him the screenshots from her phone as reasons why, but he is messaging me asking me why when she is an adult, and the only sleazy thing he's done is cheat on his girlfriend, as my daughter never physically said the word stop, she just ignored him. I'm so angry at him and myself. Edit. I'd like to say thanks to everyone for the advice. Also, I've been getting a lot of mom comments, and although I appreciate the sentiment very much, I am her dad. Unfortunately, her mum passed away quite a few years ago, but I really appreciate that everyone thought I was her mum. It really is the biggest compliment to me. I must be doing something right. We went and spoke to our local police and they couldn't really help us as she had willingly gotten into his car. They did say that as we have spoken to him already, they could keep a file open and if it continues then they would be able to take action. Honestly, it seems that they don't really care about it at all, which is alarming and upsetting. We sent the screenshots and an explanation to his girlfriend and we've had some missed calls from him, but that's not our problem. We've blocked him on everything and have completely removed him from every social media. My daughter has spoken to her work and they have said that until she is able to find another job they will ensure that at least one other member of staff will wait with her for the bus, and I will be meeting her at the first stop in our town to take her directly home on days I'm not working, and on days I am, then her grandparents will be picking her up. She is safe. I also had a lot of comments suggesting I get violent with this man. Although I do appreciate that a lot of people would be choosing the other route of resolving the problem face to face, I'm not like that. I'd like to be. I'd like to say that there's no problem I couldn't solve that way. But that's simply not me. It doesn't make me a bad dad either. I found another way to solve the problem and make sure my daughter is safe and comfortable. Thank you all for your help and advice. It's nice to find some support through the internet sometimes. Relevant comments. Commenter. It's not your fault, but you need to have a sit down and talk through the socialization for women to be nice and how to get past that mental block. This is something a lot of us go through, and it puts us in really awful situations. Help her understand that her safety is the most important thing. She doesn't have to be nice or put up with things like this. There's probably some very eloquent people who can speak to this topic on YouTube. It's not me, but I want to make sure she knows she doesn't have to take this shit for the rest of her life, even with the anxiety and desire not to rock any boats. OP. I've told her many times growing up that if she doesn't feel comfortable doing something, no matter what it is, then she needs to say that. It doesn't matter if it upsets someone or offends someone. All that matters is that she is safe and comfortable. I'm hoping that she will be like this from now on, and I just hope that she knows I'm here for her no matter what. Also, there's an update to the post. Thank you for your comment. Get her a weapon. We're in the UK, so she's legally not allowed any weapons, including pepper spray. The only thing she is allowed is an alarm, which she already had anyway. We are looking into some objects which can be carried around legally or discreetly. Currently we are looking into a keyring, which is like a long sharpened stick, though there's not many places willing to ship them to us. I'm so very sorry to hear what you have been through, and I wish you well throughout your life. After being ****ually abused by my stepfather, I lived with my dad. Recently, I discovered that he chose me over my former stepmother and half-sister. I was sexually abused between the ages 9, 13 by my stepfather. Both he and my mom will be behind bars for many years to come. When I was sent to live with my dad, I was broken. I barely spoke, didn't eat much if at all. I wasn't mad or angry. I was null of any kind of emotion. Basically, I was alive but wasn't living. I kept my interactions with everyone to the bare minimum. I was polite but didn't go out of my way to make conversation with anyone. I was more social with my dad, but I kept it to a bare minimum. I had nothing left to say to anyone. It took me 2 years for me to be able to allow my dad to show any form of parental affection towards me. That's how withdrawn I had become. Dad was my rock throughout the whole thing. When I experienced night terrors, I would wake up and either find my dad holding my hand or him holding me. He drove me to all of my therapist appointments. He made sure I was eating properly. There were days I would break down for no reason and he would just hold me and tell me that everything will be okay. He literally went above and beyond for me. I hated the city that we were living in. Because I had so many bad experiences there, it made living there miserable. I was so passive, it was scary. My therapist had told my dad that I was stuck in the victim cycle. I didn't know how to get out. Because of this, I was bullied quite a bit. By the time I was 15, I had been to 3 different schools. It got to the point where my dad pulled me out of public school and enrolled me into online classes. I was always very studious and managed to maintain a 94% average overall, but my life lacked any sort of direction. Nothing would motivate me. Looking back, Dad did spoil me, but at the time I wasn't aware of it. I was so in my own body that I barely acknowledged my surroundings. If I asked my dad for a new bedspread, I would get me a new one plus new furniture. My phone of 5 years broke and Dad got a new one plus a laptop. I was grateful and thanked him. I did share with my half-sister and stepsister at the time. Again, I was being polite. I didn't have any form of relationship with my former stepmother, stepsister, or half-sister. I barely knew what it was like being a son at the time, let alone being a brother. By the time I was 16, Dad had approached me and told me that he are moving out. I didn't question it. He had asked me to pack my things and we moved into a rental. I didn't think it was any of my business, so I didn't press the issue. A year later, Dad had divorced my stepmother. One of Dad's business acquaintances offered him a partnership in Boston and he took it. We moved and I felt I was ready to start my senior year of high school in a public school. That year was probably the best year of my life. I was coming out of my shell. There was no fear of being judged or being the odd man out. It was as if I was like everyone else. I felt normal. I became more social, made a lot of friends, got into sports, clubs, and went out more. Us moving probably saved my life. Because we had moved 9 hours away from my half-sister, she would only come visit us on long weekends, a month during summer break. There was always a form of tension between my dad and half-sister. You could just sense it. It got to the point where as she got older, she stopped coming entirely. Me and Dad have always been close. When I had graduated from high school and gave my valedictorian speech, I could see my dad crying in the crowd. I lived with my dad while I attended college. I still do for the time being. Ever since I was a child, I always wanted to be a doctor. Well, I just finished my first year of medical school. Honestly, I feel like a normal young adult in society. I have a job, friends, a boyfriend whom I've been with for 4 years. I'm thriving in all aspects of my life. Recently, I got a FB message from my half-sister. She was apologizing a lot, and I had no clue what she was talking about. Turns out, the reason why Dad and I moved out from my stepmother's home was because my half-sister told my stepmother that I was watching her change. Yes, she told her mom that I was watching her change. At the time, I was traumatized of sex. Heck, I was terrified of any form of intimacy. The kid was envious of what Dad was doing for me. She was so envious that she tried to move me out. Well, I guess her mom and my dad got into a big fight and I'm only going to assume that she did not want me in the house. Because we moved out. I think it's safe to assume my dad didn't believe it. How can someone be so cruel? What did I ever do to her? Those were the questions that were racing through my head. I didn't even respond. More importantly, Dad never let this get back to me. Chances are if I had heard about this when I was 16, that would have been the final nail in the coffin. It also explains the tension between my dad and half-sister. This is a lot to take in and I have a newfound respect and love for my dad. He gave up this marriage for me so I could live a normal life. Dad is away on a business trip and won't be back for a few more days. I'm missing him a lot lately. Should I bring it up to him when he returns? Also, would it be fair for me to just cut my half-sister out of my life entirely? At the same time, it's sad that their relationship is almost non-existent and I almost want to help. TL.er. Dad chose me over my stepmother and half-sister after my half-sister told a very dangerous lie that could have potentially ruined my life. Dad kept it from me for 6 years. Should I bring up with him? Edit. I wasn't expecting such a huge response. I just wanted to say thank you for all the feedback. It will take some time, but I will read all of them or as much as I can. As I was going through the comments, I found a number of people questioning the integrity of this. This is a part of my life. I don't normally like to talk about this. Aside from myself, my dad and close friends, not many people know about this. The fact that people are saying that it's fake. I don't know what to say. It's not my place to try and convince anyone. Believe me, there are times I wish could convince myself it's not real, but that's not possible. When I wrote this, I wasn't thinking about syntax. It was more just getting this out. People question its integrity based on grammatical errors. Forgive me, but I wasn't in the mindset to reread and go over it. As for how I became valedictorian, and a number of people were very curious, I did respond to it in the comments, but I'll post it here too. It was very unorthodox how I became valedictorian after attending a real HS for only a year. My overall average was the highest in my graduating class, but because I was in online classes for my previous years, I wasn't eligible at the time. I met with the grade coordinator and inquired about my chances, and her response was the same. I broke down in front of the coordinator and I told her the truth. Being named valedictorian was something I always wanted. To be that would have been my first accomplishment that I would have achieved based on my own merit. Yes, there is also the likelihood of getting a free ride to colleges. It wasn't trying to be valedictorian for financial reasons. Money wasn't a problem, Dad did make a lot, it was more this being my first official achievement. This would have helped me self-worth as well. The girl who was originally going to be valedictorian did meet with me and I told her the truth. She actually talked to the administration to let me valedictorian instead. It's something I'll forever be grateful for. That's actually how me and her became friends. Not many people would do that and in HS. I'll be posting again, I just need a few days. Stepdad's birthday gift turned nightmare, hidden camera found in clock. The shocking truth about who really planted it. For my 18th birthday, my stepdad gifted me a clock. When I discovered a hidden camera inside, I fled, suspecting him, but later found out the new assistant was responsible for spying on me. I'm 18 and live with my mom and stepdad Joshua. My mom married Josh 6 months ago after a rough divorce with my dad, who had an affair. It was a messy situation, and now neither my mom nor I have any contact with him. Josh has been a family friend for as long as I can remember. I never suspected he had feelings for my mom, and I don't think anything happened between them before the divorce. Growing up, I called him Uncle Josh and spent time at his dental practice, so it was a bit of an adjustment seeing him as a father figure. But I always liked him. And he makes my mom happy, so I went with it. Yesterday was my birthday, and I usually don't make a big deal out of it. I went to school, then hung out with friends. It was a nice day. When I got home, I was surprised to find out my mom and Josh had planned a surprise party for me. This was quite a shock because my mom is usually terrible at keeping secrets. I walked in to find my mom, Josh, Aunt Kathy and my little cousins ready to surprise me. It was actually quite nice. We celebrated with cake and my favorite foods, and everyone seemed happy. Then came the time for presents, which is where things took a turn. I opened gifts from my cousins and Aunt Kathy first. Then my mom and Josh gave me concert tickets to one of my favorite bands. I was thrilled because I had been saving up for ages to buy a ticket with my part-time diner job. It felt like the best birthday gift ever. After my aunt and cousins left, I went to my room to tell my best friend about the tickets. I was in bed chatting with her when Josh knocked on my door, saying he had one more present for me. I was already so happy with the tickets that I couldn't imagine anything better. Josh brought out a huge box and I tore into the wrapping. Inside was a pink wall clock with little strawberry decals. It was cute but seemed underwhelming compared to the concert tickets. Nevertheless, I was grateful and placed it on my study table. Josh asked if I liked it and I said yes. He was really happy and mentioned that the concert tickets were my mom's idea, but he wanted to get me something special on his own. My room is decorated in pink with lots of strawberry-themed items, so the clock fit perfectly. I appreciated the thought and thanked him again for being so considerate. He wished me a happy birthday once more and left. Feeling sleepy, I told Amy I was going to bed and would talk to her the next day. She had been on the call and heard Josh come in, asking what he got me. When I told her it was a clock, she insisted I show it to her. I promised to send a picture the next morning, but she was persistent, so I agreed to take a picture and send it right then, even though I didn't want to get out of bed. So she would have to settle for a terrible dark picture with my flash on. My study table is right beside my bed, so when I'm lying down, I can just barely reach it. Feeling extremely lazy, I decided to stretch out and snap the picture from bed. That's when I noticed something really odd. My room was pitch dark. I don't have any night lights or fairy lights because I need complete darkness to sleep. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera, turned on the flash, and aimed it at the clock. That's when I saw it. A small bluish light on the clock. The time flashed in a soft pink, but there was a noticeable blue light. I found it strange but didn't think much of it. I took the picture, sent it to Amy and tried to sleep. I was almost asleep when I remembered something from a movie or TV show and instantly sat up. I glanced at the clock again, did a quick search on Google, and attempted to take another picture, this time with my front camera. Guess what? The same blue light confirmed it, there was a hidden camera in that clock. In case you didn't know, you can detect hidden cameras using the front cameras on most phones, and sometimes even the back camera. I'm not sure exactly where I learned this, but I'm a huge fan of crime documentaries, so maybe I picked it up from a show or something. I was convinced there was a camera in that clock, and it was recording me. I felt a knot in my stomach. I didn't know what was going on. Why would Josh give me something like that? Someone might have been watching me right then and there. That thought snapped me out of my shock. I got up, threw the clock in the trash, And when I returned to bed, I was trembling and confused. I didn't understand what was happening. It all seemed surreal. I didn't know what to do, so I called Amy and woke her up. I explained what happened and she was just as freaked out as I was. We stayed on the call for a while and she suggested I call the cops because clearly, Josh was some sort of creep, and who knows where else he might have hidden cameras. The thought made my stomach churn. I considered going straight to my mom and Josh to tell them what happened, but I was so confused and scared at that moment it almost felt like a nightmare. Amy and I ventured online to locate a particular clock on a dubious website. After some thorough searching, we finally found it. The site was filled with eerie surveillance gadgets and similar items. The most unsettling part was spotting stuffed animals there, which made me even more uneasy since I own many stuffed animals, some gifted by my mom and Josh over the years. It made me wonder if any of them could have hidden cameras. I began feeling like everything in my room was watching me. It was one of the most distressing experiences I've had. Unsure of what else to do, I gathered all the stuffed animals that I hadn't bought myself, along with the clock, stuffed them into a trash bag and got rid of them. Feeling physically ill, I decided to just sleep it off and handle it in the morning. I took some melatonin, played some white noise, and tried to sleep. I don't remember when I fell asleep, but I know it wasn't much. My mom woke me up, shouting my name. Disoriented, it took me a moment to understand that she was yelling about the wall clock. She said Josh found it while taking out the trash that morning and was deeply hurt by my actions. I took a deep breath and told her to give me a moment so I could explain everything, confident that she would understand why I was relieved to have thrown it away. She called me an ungrateful brat, saying I wasn't worth the effort they put into making my birthday special, and demanded that I apologize to Joshua immediately. Before I get into what happened next, keep in mind it was very early in the morning, just before 7 a.m. I had a rough night and barely slept. My mom's agitation put me in a bad mood too. So when she told me to apologize, I snapped back that Josh was lucky I wasn't reporting him to the police for being a massive creep. My mom lost it and slapped me. I was shocked. In 18 years, she had never raised a hand to me and now she did it over a man. I was offended and deeply hurt. The full reality of the situation hit me and I started to cry. My mom thought I was crying because of the slap, but it was more than that. I was overwhelmed and needed her support, but she only made things worse. She saw me crying and said there was no point in it, that I should have thought before acting like a brat and throwing away a thoughtful gift. That was the last straw. I got really angry and yelled that she should think twice before defending her husband. She got even angrier and warned me to be careful about what I said next. I had enough. I got out of bed, grabbed my phone and car keys and asked her if she knew where Josh got the clock from. She thought I was implying it was a cheap gift, which wasn't the point at all. As she started to say something else, I told her I'd had enough and didn't want to hear it. I pushed past her, ran to my car and drove away. She followed me to the driveway and tried to stop me, but I was quick enough to get away. I drove to a nearby diner and sat there for a while, trying to figure out my next move. Knowing I couldn't go home, I called Amy and she told me to come over to her place. That's where I've been since the afternoon. Amy and I decided to confront my mom and tell her the truth, so we sent her screenshots of the creepy site where the clock was listed. I sent them to her and waited. About an hour later, I started getting calls and texts from both her and Josh. I didn't want to talk to either of them, so I ignored the calls, but the texts were all apologies. They both said they were ashamed of how they acted and should have given me a chance to talk instead of lashing out. They offered to explain if I gave them a chance, but I honestly didn't care. I couldn't see how this could be explained or made okay, and I definitely didn't want to go back home. I texted my mom, telling her to stop trying to reach me because I wasn't interested in hearing her out. She replied with a long message saying that Josh was innocent and would never do anything like that. Apparently, the wall clock was bought by his assistant Peter. Josh did want to get me something for my birthday without mom's help but didn't care enough to pick something out himself, so he asked Peter. Peter is a new guy working for Josh for the last few months. Josh hired him fresh out of college, so he's not much older than me. Since Josh's practice is nearby, he sometimes sends Peter to run errands like getting his lunch, and he has even come to dinner, so I've met him a few times. He always seemed kind of creepy to me, so it wasn't a big surprise that he would try something like this. He never even tried to talk to me directly, and I had no reason to believe he was capable of doing something like that. My mom's text said they wanted to call the cops on Peter but wouldn't do it without my permission. She also said she would leave Josh because he put me in this spot with his carelessness. That shocked me because I know my mom really loves Josh, so it must have been hard for her to say that. This finally made me call her. My mom sounded devastated. She had no idea about the camera and felt incredibly guilty for not believing me earlier. She kept sobbing and apologized a million times, saying she was sorry for everything, especially for slapping me and not listening when I needed her most. She said she just wanted me to come back home so she could apologize in person and make things right between us. I told her I still wasn't ready to see her but asked if she was sure it was Peter and not Josh who bought the clock. She said she trusts Josh. I told her I was still not comfortable living in the same house as him and she said I was more important to her, and if I wanted to, she would get separated from Josh. I told her I needed time to think. Also, I got a million missed calls from Josh, but I didn't pick up any of them. He texted me many times, saying he can prove that Peter bought the clock and that he had no idea it had a camera. He also said my mom wasn't speaking to him and begged me to hear him out. He said he loved my mom and me as a daughter and would never do anything to hurt us. So that's what my day has been like. Amy has been my rock and said I can stay with her as long as I need. It's just her and her grandma at their house, and I know her grandma well, so I'm sure she won't mind me staying until I figure out my next move. My mom has even tried to reach Amy, but she didn't pick up. It's not hard to figure out where I would go in a situation like this, but I hope she doesn't actually show up at her door. I feel really guilty and conflicted. I think maybe I should hear him out and see if he actually has proof, but at the same time, I feel scared and unsafe at the thought of seeing him. I don't want to destroy my mom's marriage over a misunderstanding, but I'm wondering if I'm doing something wrong here. Amy says I should do what feels right to me, but I'm not sure at all. Update 1. I did not expect to become Reddit famous overnight. The response to my post has been overwhelming, with so many questions and comments that I haven't even had a chance to read through them all. But I have some major updates to share first. The morning after my post, my mom and Josh showed up at Amy's place. I wasn't surprised. I told my mom I didn't want to see Josh and that they should leave, but she begged me to hear her out. She was very emotional, clearly having been crying, and even Josh looked rough. Feeling bad for them, I decided to hear them out once. First, let me clarify that Josh was not lying about Peter picking out the gift. He showed me text between them. Although there was no direct text about finding a gift, there were messages from Peter saying he found the perfect item and a picture of the clock. It looked like an ordinary clock. Just like when I first got it. Josh had told him to order it and send the invoice to the office. The conversation was basic and nothing seemed suspicious. Reflecting on my interactions with Peter, nothing major stood out. He had just been a little creepy, like catching him looking at me, but I never thought much of it. I told Mom and Josh about this, and they were furious. Josh kept apologizing, saying he failed me and put me in danger and that he would never forgive himself. By then, I knew it wasn't his fault and I wasn't angry at him anymore. I agreed to go back home with them. I can't believe I almost ruined their marriage over this. It's gross to think that some random creep was trying to spy on me and the thought of him seeing me gives me chills. This whole situation is a nightmare. We decided to go to the police. We have enough proof to ensure Josh isn't caught up in the investigation, and he's willing to do anything to get me justice. We're going to the police tomorrow morning. The clock is still in the trash because we don't want to alert Peter if he's still watching. I'm nervous, but at least I have support. I hope they catch him and teach him a lesson. I'll try to post an update. Some of you suggested not trusting Josh, thinking he might be in on it with Peter and now trying to shift the blame. I understand your concerns, but I trust him. Peter has been a creep for as long as I've known him. Even if Josh were capable of such a thing, why would he involve Peter, someone he's only worked with for a few months? I checked the texts on Josh's phone and the timing between messages. It didn't look like any were deleted, and Josh showed me the transfer of money to Peter's account for the clock. He had no way of knowing where the clock was bought from. All of this makes me feel like I can trust Josh. I'd rather give him the benefit of the doubt over Peter. Sure, Josh should have been more careful and picked out the gift himself, but that doesn't make him a criminal. Peter wouldn't take the fall for Josh because there's enough proof to get him in trouble. If Josh was involved, the investigation will reveal the truth. Regarding how Peter knew I would like that kind of clock, Josh mentioned that he told Peter to look for something pink and preferably with strawberries. It's not a hard guess for anyone who knows me. I love pink and have a lot of strawberry-themed things. It's just part of my personality. But instead of focusing on that, we should be more concerned that these products even exist. Many of you have asked me to name the site where the clock was bought, but I don't want to cause trouble. However, you can easily find it if you search for hidden cam clocks online. Amy and I found it pretty quickly that night. Update 2. We called the cops on Peter and he got arrested. Thank you to everyone who offered advice and support on my previous post. After reading your comments and discussing it with my mom and Josh, I realized I couldn't just let this go. I felt shaken and scared, but I knew I needed to act to protect myself and possibly others. I talked with Amy and realized he might be doing this to other girls. Maybe even minors, which made me more determined to stop him. After having breakfast and gathering my thoughts, I decided to call the police. My mom and Josh stayed with me for emotional support. I explained everything to the dispatcher: the hidden camera, the suspicious clock, and my confrontation with my mom. They took it seriously and sent 2 officers to our house to take my statement. The officer was very understanding and professional. I was nervous about how it would go, but the officer just asked me to describe the clock in detail and any other suspicious items. He asked about my interactions with Peter, and I told him everything I could remember, though there wasn't much. I also mentioned the website where Amy and I found similar spy devices. The officer assured me they would investigate thoroughly. We shared the text exchanges between Josh and Peter, showing that Josh asked Peter to pick out the gift. The officer said they needed Josh to go with them for questioning. Josh agreed immediately, reassuring us that there was no need to worry and that he would be back soon. After taking my statement, the officer asked if I felt safe staying at home and if I had any friends or family I could stay with. I told him I trusted my mom and Josh and felt all right. He told me to contact them if I felt unsafe. They also needed to search our house for other possible hidden cameras or suspicious items. The police conducted a thorough search, particularly in my room, but found nothing besides the clock and some stuffed animals I had thrown away. Peter claimed that none of the other items were bought by him, and my mom confirmed that most were bought by her. The police went through them but found nothing suspicious. They didn't find anything else in the house, which visibly relieved my mom when the police confirmed there were no other objects of concern. Josh left with the cops and came back after a few hours. When I asked what happened, he said it was all routine. They asked if he wanted a lawyer, which he declined, and mentioned he might be called in again. The cops also wanted my mom to come in for standard questioning the next day and needed me to come in too for paperwork and other details. Peter was arrested at his home and is now under investigation for invasion of privacy and related crimes. I don't know much about the ongoing investigation, but I hope he confesses or they gather enough evidence to convict him and prove Josh wasn't involved. It has been an exhausting day, and I just want all of this to be over soon. My mom and Josh have been very supportive, giving me space to process everything. We've also hired a lawyer, whom I'll meet tomorrow. I'll try to provide an update, but it might take a while as I need time to process everything and wait for more definite developments. Update 3, it has been 4 months since my last update. I've been really busy, so I apologize for the delay. First, Peter was found guilty, and we pressed charges against him. He didn't put up a fight and admitted to buying the camera clock without Josh's knowledge to spy on me. The only silver lining is that we found no evidence of him doing anything similar in the past. Since I was a minor when Peter first started working for Josh, he didn't bother to delete his search history. The police found the site with surveillance devices on his computer. More disturbingly, they also discovered that he followed me on almost all my social media using fake IDs. I had no idea about this, and it really creeped me out. He admitted that he had a crush on me when he first saw me, which is extremely creepy because he was an adult, and I was only 17 at the time. The police didn't find any evidence of him doing anything except following me on social media while I was still a minor. He said he knew he couldn't approach me directly, so when Josh asked him to pick out a present, he came up with this disgusting plan. I don't even want to think about what would have happened if I had not noticed the camera that night. Since he had no prior convictions or criminal charges against him, this was considered a misdemeanor rather than a felony. Despite our efforts to charge him with a felony, he only spent a few days in jail before being bailed out. I am quite disappointed with how things turned out, but at least his actions are permanently on his record. That's all I can tell myself. Over the past few months I've been focusing on school and getting into college. I am also going to therapy to deal with the trauma of what happened. I am grateful to have my mom, Amy, and Josh supporting me through all of this. I was discriminated against all my life because of my golden child sister. Finally, I got my sweet revenge on my wedding day. I faced discrimination my entire life because of my golden child sister, and she even tried to walk down the aisle at my wedding. Finally, I got my revenge. My parents always favored my sister, and it was far from subtle. If she accused me of something, they'd believe her and punish me. But if I accused her, even with undeniable proof, they'd give her a lighter punishment and find a way to scold me too. My birthday cake always had to be her favorite flavor, and my parents pretend they didn't know I hated it. They always bought her more than me and took us where she wanted, even if it was supposed to be about me. My sister grew up spoiled and used me as a punching bag. At first, she mostly ignored me, but things got worse when we were teens. She ended up with no friends, and her behavior deteriorated. Did her friends move away or ditch her because she was mean? I don't know because we were never close. My parents boasted about her achievements but never mentioned any issues, whereas they constantly highlighted my flaws as teasing material. I only knew she had no friends because we went to the same school, and I noticed she was no longer with people. Meanwhile, I was fairly popular. My sister realized this and suddenly turned me from an occasional punching bag to someone she needed to take down constantly. She started accusing me and my friends of more things. My parents stopped letting me hang out with anyone, with excuses like, "They're not good people according to your sister," or, "Why are you trying to leave us? Why can't you be like your sister and enjoy family time?" What saved me from complete isolation was my extended family. Most of them lived in the same hometown, and I got along well with my cousins despite some age differences. At one gathering, they invited me to something. I don't remember what, and I sadly replied that I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. When asked why, my kid self bluntly said it was because I wasn't allowed to have friends since my sister didn't have any. This got back to the adults, who apparently tore my parents apart later. I was scolded for lying and grounded for a month, but after that, they gave me some leeway, so it was worth it. My sister changed schools. I guess the humiliation of our extended family knowing her social status was too much, so she demanded to switch, and my parents immediately obliged. Even though it cost them more since the school was further away, she made friends at the new school. However, she never went back to mostly ignoring me. Having felt the power to mess with me and being angry that I told the family she had no friends, she never let me go. My life remained difficult. Her friends would come over and bully me, which my parents called light teasing. I never invited friends over because my parents were awful hosts or my sister would accuse them of stealing, and my parents would believe her. I did become close to my cousins though, as my parents never dared to treat family that way. Then I got my first boyfriend. I didn't want to bring him home, but my parents insisted. At one point we were separated and he came to find me to tell me my sister was flirting with him. She came over in skimpy clothing, batting her eyelashes, and started telling him how bad I was and how good she was. He was irked and ran off to find me. Of course, my sister told my parents a different story, that my boyfriend had tried to flirt with her, but she naturally refused since she couldn't do that to me. Guess who my parents believed? My boyfriend wasn't perfect, but I immediately believed him for a mean reason. Remember, I was a teen suffering from unfair treatment. I was very resentful and moody and hated my sister as much as she hated me. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about looks. I hadn't mentioned them yet because they weren't relevant. My parents were overweight and liked showing love via food, giving more food, buying treats, etc. My sister was also overweight, whereas I was not. I've always been kind of skinny because punishment often included no treats or snacks. Obviously weight isn't what matters, personality is. But my sister, even then, was already rude and spoiled. Even her flirting attempts were bad because she never learned to work for anything since she could demand, and my parents would deliver. Added to that, the fact that she didn't look like some sexy model, even my self-conscious teen self didn't believe my boyfriend would try and cheat on me with her. Anyway, my parents prohibited me from dating such a horrible boy. I did try to keep going in secret, but it was hard, and the relationship ended. I did get another boyfriend, but again, my sister accused him of flirting with her when he refused her advances. Again, my parents believed her. I tried pointing out how this happened again, but they decided that I was incapable of making good choices and kept picking bad boyfriends. The relationship couldn't handle the Romeo-Juliet situation and fizzled out again. I would eventually get called a slut in high school as I was fine with making out with boys and such but refused to have relationships. Thankfully, it never got back to my sister or parents. My sister did bring one boyfriend home during all this time. He was paraded with pride, and my parents spent every second telling me how good he was and why I couldn't be like my sister and find myself someone like that. Until he stopped showing up and suddenly he was a conniving bastard that tricked my sister. Oh well, and the unequal treatment continued. At this time, she had more spending money, and her curfews were much better than mine. She was free to go anywhere at any time, while I couldn't. If I pointed it out, my parents would say it's because she's older, but when I reached that age, I still didn't have the same treatment she had, and when I pointed it out, they denied they ever said that or claimed it was because I couldn't be trusted like she was, using my sister's accusations against my boyfriends and friends as proof of my bad judgment. Time goes by, and it's time for my sister to graduate. She was accepted into a college, not a very well-regarded one, and she had no scholarship or anything. Again, because only her achievements were told to me, I don't know which colleges she even tried for, so I can't say how badly she was rejected. I do know her grades were bad in school though, because whenever she got a B, we would celebrate. I would usually get good grades, but my parents refused to celebrate, claiming since I always got those, what was there to celebrate? My parents naturally made a lot of fanfare and told her they'd pay for everything. I was relieved she'd be going away. Not that it made my life any easier. She'd always come home every other weekend and somehow stuff kept missing from my room, or some other issue she'd think of to make my life miserable. My curfews were still strict. Eventually, my mom came to talk to me about my impending graduation. I'm only a year younger than my sister. She told me that since they were paying for my sister's college, they had no money to pay for mine, so it would be better for me to start working immediately after graduation and wait until my sister finished university to see if they could afford something for me. Oh, and if I decided to stay at home, I'd have to pay for all my stuff, part of the bills and rent. I pointed out that I could get student loans. Mom said yes, except no, because they were so caring towards me and I had such bad judgment that they would decide if a college was worth my getting into debt or not. I'm not sure how they'd stop me from getting loans, but I didn't ask. Scholarships weren't mentioned. They had no idea what my grades were anymore and never believed in my capabilities anyway. I didn't bat an eyelid. I simply said okay. My mom clearly didn't expect that and kept prying. Maybe she hoped I'd throw a tantrum so they'd have an excuse to never pay for my college, but I said nothing except that I understood their position, thanked them for caring, and that was that. My dad later tried the same, but I also refused to be emotional. You see, after a whole lifetime of their terrible parenting, I never had any expectations towards my education. I knew they would find an excuse to not pay for mine and make my life miserable. I never believed they would eventually pay if I worked and waited for my sister to graduate. I had been preparing for college for a long time. I could barely go out, my friendships were slim, so I had a lot of time to study. And study I did because I saw college as my only chance to be free. Well, the time came, and I worked my ass off and got a scholarship, not to anywhere like Ivy League or anything like law or medical school, but it was a good enough course in a decent college with a full scholarship. Knowing my sister would hate it and try to stop me via my parents, I put my achievement on social media at the same time I told them, even forcing myself to thank them in the post. Now they couldn't forbid me from going as they'd have to explain to the family why not. Initially, they were even a little proud and boasted about it, and then I guess my sister got to them and they changed gears and even asked me if I was sure I wanted to go. They let slip that my sister wasn't doing well in college, and since she was smarter and had better judgment than me, I'd suffer worse. I obviously stuck to my guns. They weren't happy but couldn't do anything. College was my savior. I started being happy. I still contacted my parents and visited on holidays and such, but since they refused to pay for anything, I could excuse not going a lot due to money. During this time, I avoided introducing any man to them, and my sister stopped going to college. I know she didn't graduate because, again, they'd have made a fanfare about it. She moved back home, paying no bills or rent, but it's different, my parents said, and started working at the same company as my mom, obviously thanks to my mom pulling strings. This was all presented to me as a point of pride. Almost there, I promise. I met my husband around this time. You know those people who say, if I were in that situation, I'd have done something. My husband is the type who actually does. I'm the type who is meek and a doormat in any situation and then can't sleep at night wishing I had done something, had thought of something witty to say, etc. I'm the person who can't help but cry when I'm angry. My husband is the guy who claps back immediately. He loves drama and loves to resolve it. He's the guy that if he doesn't immediately reply to a slight, you better start worrying because he won't forgive and forget, he's just doing something worse for revenge. He's the one who wanted me to post here and wanted to post on a nuclear revenge board too but decided what we did wasn't nuclear. People were baffled that I got together with him, but just because I was incapable of acting like him due to my upbringing, it didn't mean I didn't like it. I love that my husband does what I can't, and he treats people well as long as they do the same to him. When we discussed marriage, we decided we didn't care much about the ceremony due to our budget as we'd rather spend on a dream trip to Europe for our honeymoon. As for where to do it, since his family was spread out and mine was still mostly concentrated in my hometown, we decided to do it there. We weren't living too far off either, so we could take some long trips during the weekends to manage stuff. Plus, there was some work flexibility, so we could stay in my hometown for a bit too if needed. We sent out the engagement announcement and the save the date for a few months later. At this point, my parents naturally demanded to meet my man. I wanted to grow a spine and refuse, but was having a hard time. The distance had made me think maybe my parents weren't so bad. Well, my husband looked like I had cancelled Christmas when I told him I would at least ensure they were never alone with him. See, he had been getting ready for this. He even bought a high-quality recorder he could hide in a pocket to record it all. He was stoked thinking of all the ways he could refuse my sister's advances, insult her, and then spread the recording of her attempts to my family. So off he went alone and excited to meet them, and came back later euphoric. Babe, you won't believe the awful things they wanted. Babe, we can screw them over so bad. There's so many possibilities. I was confused and wanted to hear the recording, but he smartly told me it was better to listen to him first or else I'd misunderstand him. Well, he went there, and instead of flirting, my parents and my sister sat him down. After some grumbling about not being okay with him, my judgment, etc., they proclaimed they were willing to pay for my wedding on one condition. My sister would walk down the aisle. My parents insisted that my sister would walk down the aisle at my wedding first, in a wedding dress. Their excuse was that it wasn't okay for a younger sister to marry first, so it was only fair if my sister at least had the experience of it, at my venue, with pictures being taken, in the dress, and she'd even have a cake later. My husband will now type his part. Hey, vengeful husband here. Hell hath no fury like a pro-revenge instant karma nuclear revenge lurker when his beloved is scorned. That said, as much as my wife, she's my wife now, paints me as this quick-witted dude, I admit my neurons all but short-circuited when those folks legit suggested that crap like some sort of great gift. Even Troy would rather take in the horse a second time, methinks. Alas, after my brain rebooted, I did have a whole list of insults ready to spew out, but something in my soul whispered in my ear like the devil, string these idiots along. So I said I needed to think, see how my wife, back then fiancé, would react, and then ran out of there before I could give away my nefarious plans. Back to me, the wife. So my husband sincerely recounted how my parents wanted even my wedding to be about my sister, with a grin on his face and the recording to prove it. I was shocked. The distance had softened how badly they treated me and I thought even they wouldn't go so far. Thankfully, my husband insisting on the angle of revenge helped me not go to a bad headspace. We had a blast thinking up ways to screw them over, from ridiculously outlandish to what we thought was feasible. We then called his much more level-headed brother when we decided on a plan. It involved having 2 venue addresses, giving them the wrong one, etc. Well, the level-headed brother scolded us for it. While he acknowledged he would never be able to convince us to avoid retaliation, he at least showed us that something like that would be hard to pull off. Some of our other ideas were also at risk of getting us sued, so we eventually settled for the most benign plan, act like we agreed, but then hire security and don't let her in. Obviously, if that was all, it wouldn't be pro-revenge. The rest is mostly my husband's doing, but he wants me to do the honors. So here goes. Just important to mention, everything he did was previously discussed with me, and they were our mutual ideas. He went back to my parents, said he probed and thought I wouldn't be down with it. However, he didn't see the issue and, not wanting the family to fall apart, would be down to help them do it. He pointed out that I don't like conflict, so if I was surprised with it, I might not throw a tantrum in front of all the people. On the other hand, marriage is a big thing, so who knew if I'd lash out? Thus, he suggested a compromise. They'd help pay for stuff. This way, I would feel even more pressure to not say anything, as not only would we be public with our families there, but I'd be grateful for the help they gave. He said my parents looked shocked, and my grown sister literally started skipping with joy like a kid, so it was accepted. Importantly, my husband also claimed that due to some bad judgment and past boyfriends, these words were all my idea and I'm so proud of using their words against them. I was distrustful and controlling and liked to check his phone and stuff to ensure he wasn't cheating on me. As such, it was imperative that nothing of this plan was ever put in writing. For any discussion pertaining to my sister walking down the aisle before me, he'd go over to their house to talk. And so began the months of deception where my parents and sister thought they were tricking me, while my husband and I were milking them. Rather than paying for the wedding, they lay low. Of course, my parents wanted input in everything, including some things that meant a lot to me, like the songs and color palette. My husband would convince them to let it go to keep me in line, but since we never really cared for the ceremony to begin with, everything else was fair game, or so they thought. Here's what we did. We'd go to check the drink and menu options and then accept the lowest or second lowest priced option. My husband would then secretly take my sister there to try it out and then sigh and say, "It's a pity we don't want to abuse my parents' goodwill, so we won't get the best options." Cue my sister demanding my parents pay for the best. My parents would then tell me not to worry and they'd pay for the most expensive option. The same was done with the photographer and flowers. My husband handed my sister a bouquet of the flowers we wanted and then sadly expressed how I wanted some other tasteless flowers. Cue my parents telling me they wanted us to go with said flowers and they'd pay for it. When it came to the wedding dress, we hit a minor snag. My parents wanted me to use a hideous dress. Okay, it wasn't outright hideous, but it wasn't my style and wouldn't look good on me. We had planned on saying yes and then simply not using it, but my mom sent me a message about it, so there'd be proof I said okay. We had to go with me refusing to text and standing my ground. My husband went over there and said he'd see what he could do. My sister suggested ruining my desired dress so I'd be forced to wear the other one. He pretended to agree. During all this time, they kept communications outside any text. We made sure that happened by having me reply to my sister when she tried messaging my husband. This solidified the uncontrolling and neurotic claims my husband was making, so they believed it and never risked anything in writing. Some people might not like the thought of their partner going around and talking badly about them to family, but I'm such a doormat that the thought of being painted as this controlling and dangerous person is extremely funny to me, and I egged him on to do it. I guess I have a warped sense of humor. Oh, and my sister did try to flirt with him, but he acted conflicted to really sell that he was with them. My husband would pretend to tell them things without my knowledge, but he never told them we hired security. It was really funny. My husband and I, who had sincerely considered a courthouse wedding to focus costs on our honeymoon, ended up having this extravagant, expensive wedding and barely spent a dime. We called it back to pay for emotional damages from my parents. I think my husband, okay, he just confirmed I'm right, was enjoying the whole trick more than planning our wedding. I didn't think it was possible to witness a guy beaming at the thought of wasting his whole Saturday doing a car trip to discuss wedding details with his in-laws, but here we are. Soon the day came. The plan my parents, sister and husband had come up with was to wait until everyone was seated since the bride always comes out late. They'd have my sister arrive at that precise time to avoid me seeing her and trying to stop it, and she'd walk down the aisle. By the time I heard what happened, it would be too late to do anything. As for my dress, we saved some of the leftover fabric from my dress alterations. My husband took that to my parents' place, my sister still lives with them, and showed them as proof he'd ruined the dress, then said he had to go back to me as I was raging and he needed to calm me down. He told them he'd see them at the wedding. We made sure to keep our real security hidden initially. As the guests and my parents arrived, they only saw a woman with a list of names to check. Only after my parents had settled in did we bring out the actual security, a guy who looked like a bodyguard. We instructed him not to let my sister in and promised a generous tip if he kept our instructions confidential. Soon, the moment arrived. My parents got a text that my sister was less than 5 minutes away, so my dad signaled for the ceremony to start. My bridesmaids had been prepped to follow his lead, so they did without checking with me. After they all took their places, my dad stood at the entrance, waiting for me. During this, a friend not in the wedding party texted me to get ready, to avoid suspicion if my husband or bridesmaids started texting. This friend, my husband's ally, was as eager to stir drama as he was and didn't mind not being a bridesmaid. As soon as my dad took his position, the bridal song began. The doors opened and I entered. My dad was shocked to see me. He tried to look behind me but couldn't see the venue entrance from where we were, so he had no idea what had happened to my sister. Then his phone rang. I saw the caller ID, and it was her. He left me with a mumbled, "Something came up." Gasps and confusion filled the room. The friend on the plan loudly asked what happened. I lied and said tearfully, "He told me it wasn't supposed to be me there." My husband and I had agreed that if my dad abandoned me, I should say that to make him look as bad as possible. The tears weren't just acting. I was genuinely hurt and trying not to cry. The friend then loudly asked, "What did he mean by it shouldn't be you?" So that everyone could hear and spread it. Then she said, "I will go and check," and ran off. We planned this so she could create chaos with the security and prevent my dad from returning to stop the ceremony. Eventually, my mom also left. At this point, my husband's dad quickly ran over and took my arm. He'd been forewarned he might need to. His desperate run to me made me smile. I walked down the aisle to whispers as people discussed what had happened. Some left to check as well. When I reached my husband, all was well. He comforted me, joking that my sad face was so real I deserved an Oscar and reassured me he'd deal with my parents for what they did. We got married without any further issues. My parents didn't come back. I noticed a lot of people leaving and returning during the party, but no one dared tell me what was happening. Someone whispered in my husband's ear and he went out. He returned later with a thunderous expression but whispered to me that he needed to go hide before he broke character and started smiling. It worked. Here's the summary from friends, family, the security guy, and my husband that I got afterwards. My sister arrived in a wedding dress. The security refused to let her in as we had agreed. He told her she must be at the wrong venue because there was already a bride. Yes, we tipped him very well as promised. My dad tried threatening him with the police, claiming he'd never heard of him, so he couldn't be working there. The security agreed to call the police since he was hired by us and was just doing his job. My dad realized it would be too late and tried to demand that he let my sister in. At this point, the friend came over, started shouting and insulting my sister, and asking what was going on, basically stalling. My mom soon arrived, followed by others. By then, the wedding plan was ruined. All my parents could do now was damage control, as everyone who learned about it was horrified they'd try to pull it off. People started screaming and berating them. The three naturally said it wasn't a secret and blamed my husband. When he was called over, my husband put on his best confused look and denied everything. To quote him, "Gaslight, gatekeeper, girl boss, LOL." He denied ever agreeing to such a ridiculous plan. When they insisted he demanded proof, and of course, they couldn't provide any. All the text exchanges they could show were about normal wedding decisions. My sister was scream-crying and apparently sat on the floor kicking her legs like a child. My dad looked like he wanted to hit my husband, but security and other people held him back. Naturally, they claimed they had no proof because my husband told them not to text. My husband laughed and said, "Wow, how convenient, huh?" Then he repeated, "Why would I ever agree to something so messed up?" He ripped into them about being terrible parents and said he wasn't going to let their stupid plans and lies ruin his wedding, then went back to me. No one believed them. The venue had cameras, but they wouldn't show me the recording as it was only for security purposes. However, some people filmed parts of it. Watching my parents and sister get torn apart by everyone who came out to see the drama was delightful. After years of being accused of things and not being believed, seeing them get a taste of their own medicine was one of the best wedding gifts. My mother was crying, my dad kept changing from purple to white, and my sister was still on the floor crying and screaming. They kept insisting that my husband was in on it, but people kept asking why he would agree, why there was no proof, and why they wanted my sister to do this at my wedding. They had no good answers. Eventually, they were told to leave and had no choice but to do so. My dad apparently had to drag my sister up as she refused to leave the ground. Again, people said nothing to me all night. I guess they wanted to spare me, and maybe it's because I was the bride and not just a guest for once, but it did feel like everyone was making an extra effort to be nice, positive, and excited about everything. My husband says all the expensive food and drinks they were eating certainly helped, LOL. We had a blast. My husband kept up the forced angry face for only a short while before breaking out in smiles again. After that, we went to the hotel to catch some sleep before heading off on our honeymoon. Speaking of which, my parents did try to pay for our plane tickets, but we thought that was risky as they could try to cancel them or something, so we refused. Since then the three of them have tried to contact me. I've refused calls because my husband insisted on keeping a paper trail, a smart move because my sister eventually messaged me. I won't repeat what she said as it was very unhinged and didn't make much sense, but the important part was that she blamed me for her humiliation. Called my husband a two-faced snake who fooled them for months, he wants to print and hang that on our wall, LOL, and hoped, but was also certain, that I'd get cheated on by him. She even suggested he was cheating on me with her. My husband took my phone, screenshot the call logs, my sister's messages and some messages from my parents demanding I pick up the phone, and sent it all to our family group chat. He also sent screenshots of messages to him where they called him names and threatened him, but he kept up the "you're delusional, I never agreed to anything" shtick and even threatened to sue them for defamation and harassment. He wrote a message in the group chat begging my family for help as I was now being harassed by them constantly. He pleaded with them to stop my parents and sister from ruining our honeymoon after they failed to ruin our wedding. He ended with a request that they not share our locations to prevent my parents from sending my sister over and claiming he had somehow agreed to pretend to sleep with her in our honeymoon suite, LOL. My family assured him they'd handle it, and since then, we've had peace. My husband is a bit disappointed that my sister didn't disobey so he could call her out again while tearing her a new one. We'll see if the peace lasts. All in all, while I would have preferred a normal, loving family at my wedding, at least for once in my life they not only failed to ruin something meaningful to me, but I got back at them. Extra info: do I know why they treat me like this? I've been asked this question a lot, so I assume you all will wonder the same. I've pondered this all my life and still don't know. I tried asking when I was young, but they denied any difference and scolded me for being spoiled, so I stopped trying. I've considered many possibilities, but based on my observations I think it's this. I was unplanned. They took a while to have my sister, so she was not only wanted but also like a miracle child after so long. However, given our small age difference, I think they didn't expect to have another child so soon or easily and didn't use adequate protection after my sister's birth. Maybe they didn't realize my mom was pregnant until it was too late, so they were saddled with an unplanned baby while still dealing with a newborn. They're not well off, so having the extra expense likely didn't help, and they resented me. But that's just my conjecture. Regardless, I've accepted that the reason won't truly matter. What they did to me was unwarranted, no matter what. Did they really think this would work? My husband and I have a theory that they never intended to do this at all. We think my sister threw a tantrum over me getting married first when she barely gets dates, and they made my husband that outlandish proposition. They didn't want to pay for my wedding and didn't think we'd accept or that it would even look good for them to do it. By suggesting it and being refused, they could look like the good guys to my sister while having an excuse not to give me a dime. But then my husband accepted it and they couldn't backtrack without risking my sister turning on them. Despite being the most experienced, I was overlooked for marketing team lead, and they hired an external candidate, hurting my motivation and self-esteem. Hi everyone, it's been a few months now since this happened, but I can't get past this and I guess I just want to get this off my chest in hopes that it'll help me get over it. Here we go. I've been working at the same company for over 6 years. The company is medium-sized, I would say, and at the time I was hired we didn't have a marketing department. With time the company grew, and after 1 year of working there, they offered to kickstart the marketing department. I accepted. For 2 years, I was the only person in the marketing department. I did everything all by myself. I knew how everything worked. I kept my numbers and quality high, and my manager even asked my boss to give me a bonus for my hard work. As the company grew, the work became too much for just one person, so they gave me a team. We were now 4 in total. I trained and pretty much led the team, but the thing is, my title never went past marketing agent. I thought that with all the things I'm doing, I'd at least get marketing manager by now. I expressed this to my manager, who said that they'll see what can be done. Months passed, my title remained the same, but then in a meeting with my manager one day, they told me that our boss is thinking that there should be a marketing team lead on the team. They said that they think it's going to be me as I started off the department, trained everyone, have the most knowledge, and have been in the company for 6 years now. Obviously, I got excited hearing that and I patiently waited for the boss to finally drop the news to me. The news ended up being that they were looking for a marketing team lead. And they decided to hire externally. I can't even put into words the way I felt. Even now, I still feel like I've been punched in the gut. It feels so unfair and humiliating. I was the first person in the marketing department. I have the most experience. Why would you hire someone with 0 experience instead? I asked my manager why I wasn't considered for it, and their response was basically just, "Boss just couldn't see you being a team lead." Hearing that seriously killed my self-esteem and made me feel even more humiliated. They eventually hired the person to take on the team lead role, and what made me want to slam my head against the wall is that they made me train them on everything I knew. Listen, the new team lead is a nice person and I really don't want to hate them because it's not their fault, but my bitterness is so strong, I just don't even want to interact with them unless I need help. So now, I'm stuck being marketing agent forever, I guess. But what really drove me to write this on Reddit is the new team member. One person on the team left and was replaced with someone else, who just started last month. The team lead is on vacation, so I was the one asked to train the new hire. As I was training them, we talked and I told them a little about myself, about how I started the department and everything. And then they said, "So all that just to not be team lead?" And that honestly just pissed me off. I don't know if it's their wording, their tone or the look of pity on their face that got to me, but I just shut down. I laughed it off, finished up with training and just barely worked the whole day. And the day after that. Even now I feel like my numbers are lower than usual, my quality definitely dropped, but I just can't care anymore. I know I could just quit, but this company's benefits are amazing. And I've made so many friends here that would make leaving so hard. Traveling for work every few months allowed me to see different cities and take in new experiences, but I just can't get past this, and I don't know if I ever will. I might just go through the days until I really just can't do it anymore. If you've read up until this point, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it and I really hope this situation never happens to you. Edit. Hi again, everyone. I just want to thank you all for your advice. You've all been very helpful and you've all given me the confidence to send my resume to other companies for a team lead or manager position. I'll be sending my resume to more as they pop up. The market is terrible right now, but I am pretty confident. Now I just have to act like normal in this current position until I hear from one of them. Wish me luck. For those wondering how I trained the new team lead, I did not teach them everything I knew. Hell no. I taught them enough to do their job, but when it comes to deeper knowledge, I held back. I personally just thought it was the smartest decision for me, as teaching them all I knew wouldn't have benefited me at all. It's up to my company to teach them everything else, not keep relying on me. When I was asked to train the new hire, I did mention that I shouldn't train them if we have a team lead. But boss hit back saying that I would be responsible if the team fell behind if we waited until the team lead got back from vacation. I didn't want to cause stress for the rest of the team and myself, so I, stupidly, complied. I did consider threatening to leave if I didn't get the team lead role, but I held back because I was afraid of the response LOL. I was afraid they would have just let me go and I'd be left unemployed without a backup job, especially considering the job market right now. But I guess my pride also played a part in it. I really wanted to be given the team lead role because they believed in me, wanted to give it to me, not because I threatened them. I also do quite like my job, so I thought I could suck it up, but it's really not worth the mental suffering. Huge thanks again for reading my ramblings. Have a great one, guys. Update: so, I got a job as marketing team lead. Just finished week 3. The market is rough right now, but I'm glad I didn't give up and just kept applying. My new job's a little challenging, but my mental health is in a better place now knowing I could finally, fully let go of that grudge. If you're in a similar situation, don't lose hope. When I gave in my notice, I would pay just to see the look on my boss's face again when I told them I was leaving for a marketing team lead job. They tried to match the salary match, but I declined. They asked what they could do to keep me, but I kept it polite and just said that it was time for me to experience more in a different role now. I could tell they were really pissed, but I couldn't care less LOL. And then apparently they talked smack about me to the manager, that I was betraying them and all that BS. It's so embarrassing LMAO. Of course, before I left, I asked my manager what I needed to improve on to be a better team lead so I can do even better in my new role. I was told things like, be a little more strict, have more confidence, and other things I made sure to write down to work on. And I know it's been months, but I still wanted to ask again why I was passed up the promotion at this company. So apparently it's because they made it so that the team lead did more admin work. More team reports, team evaluations, team decisions and coming up with new procedures, and less marketing. Apparently, since I'm the most senior with consistent results, they didn't want to lose that by making me team lead. So they figured keeping me as a marketing agent was the smartest move for the company. I fully understand their decision, but screw that LMAO. I feel like I'm actually doing what a team lead should be doing in my new company and that's all I really wanted. It just feels like they're still trying to figure out what a team lead should do and I'm not willing to stick around for that again. Thank you again everyone for encouraging me to look for another job. I got way too comfortable in my last job that I allowed them to walk all over me. You aren't handcuffed to a certain company forever, it's okay to leave when you feel there's no more growth for you. Have a great one everyone. Would I be the asshole for telling my boyfriend that him being a Trump supporter gives me the ICK? Hi y'all. New account because I don't really want anybody connecting this with me. I, 20F, started dating my boyfriend, 21M, about 2-ish months ago. We've known each other for approximately 3 years. We weren't initially interested in dating, but it kinda just happened. And things have been really well except for one thing. I found out he's a Trump supporter. Now before you lecture me in the comments about how I shouldn't let politics get in the way of my relationship, please hear me out. It's just been a couple of things that have really rubbed me the wrong way about him for some reason. For context, I am a Hispanic female immigrant, fled from a country where, if I can put it in simplest terms, went to shit, who's had nothing but bad experiences with Trump supporters because almost every single time without fail, they would always say or do something extremely demeaning to myself or my family, talking about how people like us should be deported without even realizing they are referring to us, saying that people like me are a threat to the country, slut-shaming, etc. etc. I consider myself the kind of person who judges a person's character based on what they believe in, and time again, it's been proved to me that these types of people are the type I should stay away from. On the day that Trump got convicted, we started talking about politics, and he told me that he's not really a felon. The courts were unfair, there was bias, and he should have had a fair trial. Not exactly verbatim, but that's pretty much the point he made when I told him that Trump was a felon now. When we were watching The Boys, S4, and that one part where an old man was explaining to Newman that women can reject pregnancies, he agreed with that old man. When I explained to him that that's not how women work, he apologized to me, but I was still absolutely surprised that he didn't even understand such a basic thing about women. He has a sister, so it's not like he grew up without women in his life. We had a conversation about immigration, and he told me that all immigrants should be immediately deported. I told him that myself and my family are immigrants, and if that meant he wanted US to be deported, to which he said, but you guys are legal. I'm talking about the illegal ones. I told him that this type of rhetoric makes me feel unsafe, and the conversation kinda just ended there. When we were having a conversation about the Trump-Epstein relationship, he told me that it was all a conspiracy and that Trump isn't the type of person to do that. I brought up a bunch of examples of Trump being a predator, the pussy grabber stuff, heckling a 10-year-old, the creepy comments about his daughter, the flight logs, making the point that while being guilty by association isn't a thing, the other instances of him being a predator make this seem a lot more plausible. He told me that Trump never did any of that. And in a way, that kinda broke the camel's back for me, because I myself am a victim of sexual assault. And the nasty thought occurred to me that if I ever got assaulted, he probably wouldn't even believe me. That he is standing behind someone I consider a rapist means that he condones Trump's actions, and by extension, the actions of the man who assaulted me. I don't know how he, who grew up with women, and has a girlfriend, who he is fully aware of is Hispanic and an immigrant, has LGBTQ+ friends, and states that he loves people like me and his family, can even stand behind something like that. It makes me wonder if there's a side of him that he hasn't revealed to me yet, because this is a new relationship. And that makes me extremely uncomfortable. I'm asking if I WBTAH for telling him that this gives me the ick, because my own family is telling me that I shouldn't let politics get in the way of my relationship. That Trump wants people to fight each other, and that I shouldn't let Trump win. But I really don't know. Can I get some advice? Relevant comments. Cat Peacematologist, NTA. He may be speaking out of brainwashed ignorance, but even after offering your perspective, he tells you that you're wrong. If you stay with him, you will never stop having to educate this guy, and he doesn't really want to be educated, OP. Yeah, I can agree with that. Every time I invite him to do his own research, he'll always pull up a pro-Trump article and use it as evidence that I'm wrong, or ask me multiple times where I'm getting my resources until I doubt myself. He's been asking me to promise that we wouldn't let our differences in beliefs cause problems in our relationship, and I feel like I'm being babied a bit. It's been really stressing me out. Because aside from that, he's really nice to me. And a lot of my family is excited about meeting him and his family. Breaking up with him after I just announced I was dating him would cause even more problems for me, but the more I think about it, the more I realize that it will probably be for the better. I think I'm okay with carrying through with it. I'll talk to him when I see him later. I'm not really excited about it because we go to the same school. Update. Hey y'all, update here. I didn't really expect my last post to blow up or for people to tell me that this is a justifiable reason for ending a relationship, so thank you for not being judgmental. A lot of people were asking me what country my family came from, so I'll just say it since I don't think that's identifiable information. It's Venezuela. If you don't know what's happening there, then I envy you. Also, shout out to those PPL who thought this was AI generated. I find it kinda sad that this has pretty much become the state of Reddit now. Like, if you think something's AI, just don't engage with it. That's what people who post AI want from you. Don't let them win. Now on to the update. I spent the last couple of days with my dad, who was visiting me, and deleting social media and muting a bunch of politics-related stuff, because I've come to realize that regularly listening to people talk about how people like me ruin the country and how we don't belong here isn't really good for my mental health. And neither is dating someone who openly admits to supporting that group. So I talked to, now ex-BF. I went to his room instead of inviting him to mine, because I knew that if I let him in my room he would just refuse to leave until he convinced me, and I wanted to keep the power of removing myself from the situation at any time. We live in a college dorm. Firstly, I should say that I admitted to him on the day that I made my first post that him supporting a known rapist is hurtful to me, because him tolerating that behavior makes me question if he's tolerant of the POS who assaulted me, and thus, I see him in a different light. And he sent a very long text message just telling me that it hurt his feelings and that he does care about me being SA'd. I didn't really understand though, because he votes for a P***say grabber. It boiled down to, I feel terrible that you see me as the type of person who'd be okay with rape, because I'm not okay with it. I acknowledge that I might have been an to say that, so I started that conversation by apologizing to him and then following with me just telling him that I want to end the relationship and going back to being friends. I don't think I meant the friends part though. You can't have your cake and eat it. I can't be your friend if you affiliate yourself with a group of people who regularly shit on me. He tried to convince me to stay by saying that he really loved me and cared about me and respected my opinions. That we shouldn't let politics get in the way of our relationship. I responded that I can't change what he believes and that I value a person's beliefs and the group of people they associate with as a method of how I judge their character. I've already judged him. I don't like what I see, and therefore, I've lost my feelings for him. He told me I was making a generalization. I told him that while it is true that I might be making a generalization, we can't change the fact that in this landscape of politics, many of my rights are in the chopping block, and that I'm already starting to resent him for not really feeling listened to when I try to talk about how anxious it's making me. He told me that none of that stuff is going to happen, and that our different opinions shouldn't get in the way of our relationship. That he's voting for T*ump because he thinks he can fight inflation and cares about military members. I told him that while I can list a million reasons why that isn't true, that isn't relevant to the conversation. He then said that all his other relationships never consisted of talking about politics and that this was ridiculous. I pretty much told him that he can't have his cake and eat it. I can't date someone who associates with people who give me trouble, and that this won't be sustainable. Ending is better for the both of us. I realized that this conversation was going nowhere and decided to just leave. I told him to just give up on it already before leaving. He kept asking me to stay while he thought about what to say, but I didn't. I'm just done. I don't really feel sad. I feel so relieved. I'm going to leave social media for a while and just focus on myself for a while. I'm going to therapy too. I'll stick around to read your comments. IDK how much longer I'll be able to respond though. If I go radio silent, then just take that as a sign that I'm no longer on this app. Have a nice day. Relevant comments, Mame Dennis 1974, NTA. You don't break up with him because he gives you the ick. His support of a racist and homophobic convicted felon does not align with your values. It's not a quirky little thing. Like disagreeing on a choice of music or what team to root for in a game. BTW, he may claim to have all these diverse friends, but I can assure you that they do not consider him their friend with views like this. Anyone in your family's opinion about your relationship does not matter here. They aren't dating him. You are. The fact that you point out to him how you are an immigrant too and that doesn't seem to register at all to him. Honey, he's in a cult. There's no saving him OP. You pretty much summed up my exact thoughts on why his gay friend doesn't want to hang out with him anymore. I found out recently that there's a bit of a rift in their relationship and I didn't even start thinking about why until I learned more about him. Gosh, everyone's burning bridges. My boyfriend lied to me about having a vasectomy which got me pregnant. And now I feel disgusted when I touch him. I, female 34, have been in a relationship with Finn, male 47, for a little over a year. I live on my own and he lives on his own, but occasionally I spend the night at his place. Finn is handsome, fit, funny, and charitable. His kindness was what caught my attention. He was just a very thoughtful and kind man, and I love that about him. I have struggles with PTSD, so I don't feel comfortable with intimacy until I feel safe and trust that person. Finn said he understood and didn't press it. We didn't start getting intimate until 2 months in, but I was pretty drunk, so I was upset the next morning and he comforted me. He didn't get angry or blame me at all. After that, we had a healthy sex life. I was adamant he wears protection every time. Once while we were in the middle of playtime, he asked if he could take the condom off. I said no, and he said that it wasn't feeling good to him and he is unable to climax with one on. I said no again. Afterwards, he didn't cuddle or hold me like he always did and said nothing to me. I got up to get water and asked if he needed anything and leaned over to kiss his cheek. He shied away from my kiss and muttered, "Oh, now you care about me?" I asked him what that was about and he told me he bends over backwards to make me happy, but he didn't get to feel good because I won't let him not wear a condom. I told him I am very worried about pregnancy. I live in a place where abortions are extremely difficult. He said I am on birth control, so what's the issue? I said that's not 100% and he knew it. I grabbed him some water and told him that if he got a vasectomy, we could talk. They are reversible and accessible. I just cannot get pregnant. We didn't discuss it again and he even apologized for being a jerk the very next morning and took me to the spa. I apologized for ruining the night and he said it was alright and we kinda moved on. Everything was great, and around the 6-month mark, he said he thinks we are getting serious and that he considers me his partner, and asked about the condoms again. I reminded him of my requirement for that and he said he had to think about it. About 2 months ago he had a work trip that lasted a week and a half, and when he returned he was all over me. At the time I was going through a difficult depression. I suffer from depression and sometimes it gets really bad. He seemed annoyed and made a remark that I am punishing him for missing and loving me so much, and he held my face and started kissing me again. After the back and forth for a few more minutes, I just gave up and we had sex. In the middle of it, he asked if he could take off the condom and I said no, but he said he had the vasectomy. He was so excited to get me in bed he had forgotten to tell me. I stupidly said, well, all right then. After that he would forget the condemnation altogether, until my cycle was off. At first I figured it was stress, change in diet, a billion other possible reasons, but this nagging feeling came over me and I got tested. Pregnant. He found me crying on his bathroom floor and asked what was wrong, so I told him and he smiled and laughed like, "Really? That's amazing, baby?" And left me there, and he went whooping through the other room. When he came back he was rattling off so much info. He had a dream about this and now it's happening, so it must be a sign. My brain finally caught up and I asked about the vasectomy and he said, "It's not 100%, right? Like condoms and pills." I was puzzled as the only goalie we took out of the equation was condoms. He said it was a miracle and I told him absolutely not. I explained that my best friend lives in a different state and I will be going to visit and also benefit from the reproductive health clinics there. He went silent. He asked me if I really hated him that much and I didn't understand. I said I never want to be pregnant and that he knew this about me. That hasn't changed. He became extremely angry with me, saying I wouldn't dare murder his child and that if I loved him, I would never threaten that again. He explained that he will take care of us, he makes plenty of money and, "Don't I treat you like a queen? So all he is asking is that I have the baby." I said I needed to go and started packing to go home, and he followed me repeating things like, "You won't though, right? You won't murder my baby?" And stuff like that. He kept asking where I was going and I said home. I was too tired and emotional right now and I want to go home. He stepped in the doorway and said no, and we needed to talk about this. I started to get upset as he was blocking me and I felt trapped. I asked him to move and he said no. I asked him again, "I want to go home," and he said no again. He said, "You are not leaving, what part of that don't you get?" I started crying and grabbed my phone and backed away from him, telling him to stay away from me. Finn looked really sad and said I couldn't be serious. He would never hurt me and asked me to stop crying. I demanded he let me leave and he did. He has since been calling and texting me begging me to talk to him. He says I really hurt him by pretending to be scared of him, as I know he would never hurt me. He said he treats me like a goddess and I played the helpless victim card and that things like that can ruin a man's life. He then said that I wasn't thinking straight and, "Is your brain lying to you again?" When I have a PTSD or depressive episode I sometimes say my brain is lying to me again, to make it seem less heavy a topic. He has a very community-facing job and I remembered the look on his face when I backed away. I don't want to ruin his life or our relationship. At that moment my emotions were so high that I just reacted. But I wasn't pretending. I sat in my car for God knows how long, shaking before I could drive home. I've been ignoring his reaching out, but I feel like a coward. Am I? The A. Am I? The A has no consensus bot. OP received mixed reactions. Relevant comments: omeprazole mommy. He literally lied about getting a vasectomy and got you pregnant after you had explicitly set boundaries. OP on if she lied about birth control to her boyfriend. OP answer: I am on the patch. Never lied about that. Update. He broke up with me and called me a murderer. So I made an appointment and got the abortion. It was honestly such a horrible experience, but my bestie was with me and the whole staff were so kind and supportive, so I am grateful. Thank you to those who encouraged me to get it done. It was awful, but pregnancy and being trapped with him would have been much worse. Finn texted Wednesday and apologized and said he said things he didn't mean, and to please answer my phone as I have been ignoring him. When he called again, my bestie recorded it all. Before I could finish hello, he went on a long bit about how amazing I am, how much he loves me, what a great mother he knows I will be, and he will marry me immediately if that's a concern of mine. When I finally got to talk, I said that I am no longer pregnant and I never want to be, and that I was clear about this from the beginning. He asked if it was miscarriage and then said, "Because I know you wouldn't willingly murder our child, right? Say right. It's a miscarriage." I got quiet and he said that it's okay. Miscarriages are not the female's fault, and that we can just try again. I said, "Again? We weren't trying to begin with. I was on BC and he had the vasectomy. And you all guessed it." He laughed and said he lied about the vasectomy so I would give up on condoms, that he long decided I was perfect and he loved me and wanted me to be the mother of his kids. My best friend spoke up and said that was recorded and to leave me alone or she will post it on social media, and he started screaming at us. He then sounded like he was crying and said I was a witch for this. That I am a hateful murderer, and that I broke his heart. He went on to say if I tried to slander him to remember, actions have consequences. He then broke up with me and said he will check back with me in a few days when I am actually alone, and we will talk in person to see if I have come to my senses. He wants us to go to church together Sunday, which is now today, and set a time to pick me up. I said no, but I do have a ring cam, And sure enough, he showed up at my door. I watched him note my car was not there, and at my front door, on camera, he texted me asking if I was sleeping around on him and if I let the other man ride you like a wild horse without a condom, and if so, he gets a hall pass. He said to come home immediately as we need to come to an understanding of our relationship ASAP. I return home tomorrow and don't know what to do. Edit. Anyone who wants to shame my abortion, I have zero regrets, and actually will advocate for them from now on. But I will happily mock you in the comments. Thanks actually. You reminded me how little an opinion means to me if it's coming from a disrespectful and/or bigoted place. At least I get to laugh through this nightmare. Edit 2. I won't be going home alone any longer. My bestie is coming with me and I have a friend in the city I live with my spare key and he is now in my home watching it for me. Edit 3. Since I've been asked in the comments, this really blew up. So sorry if I don't reply to you all. I am in a safe location with 2 male friends who know the whole story and we are looking into options. I don't want to do anything hasty. A guy friend is at my home and thus far it's been quiet. I will make an update when I know more. Edit 4. No, I will not harm myself the way some of you have messaged me. For those calling themselves pro-life, you sure want me to take my own. Not very pro-life at all. And since we're on the topic, I don't want to get pregnant because I was told by my doctors that I have a high chance of passing away, even before making it to term. The child also has a high rate of mortality during the pregnancy. Essentially, we would both kick the bucket before delivery. I am ineligible for tubals or hysterectomy where I live until I turn 40, especially with my insurance, and I would never be able to afford the out-of-pocket fee. The places even still require a husband's signature as a policy. I would be open to adopting if I ever found the right person, and were settled and ready. Relevant comments. Aquavanatus. This isn't about you getting an abortion. This is about your ex not respecting you enough to attempt baby trapping you into a long-term relationship and/or marriage. He doesn't respect you or your choices. He lied to you about having a vasectomy. He's gaslighting you and trying to control you. You need to bring that recording to the police ASAP and file for a restraining order because your ex won't stop until he's faced with the consequences of his actions. Remain vigilant. Stay safe. OP answer. Thank you, and to everyone who's been telling me this. I am starting to feel less like I am crazy and more like I need to take action and protect myself from this guy. I think I trusted him so much. I would have happily married him. He said he didn't want kids when we met. This is all a lot, but it's helping me understand more and more that I am being played Sandbar Lakers. Everyone's saying get a lawyer ASAP. But she might not even be able to afford one. OP. Is there anyone who can go home with you? I truly have you safe. Keep us posted, and not because this is interesting but because there are those of us who genuinely are concerned and care. OP answer. I can't afford one. I work in the arts and just would never be able to swing the costs I am seeing online. My bestie is returning home with me and I have a friend at home who is house sitting now. Mysterious. Ben 4354. Isn't the thing he did called reproductive violence? Can he be charged with rape for this? If it's possible, you should definitely go to the police and press charges against him. He's such an asshole. OP answer. This has been brought up, but it's the first I've heard of such a thing, so bestie and I are checking. Every state has its own rules, so we will see. Mine is not pro-choice friendly. Professional Zone 168. The part about him wanting you to go to church with him disturbs me. What kind of church is it? Do you think that he's being egged on by fellow church members? Please consider going to stay with a friend for a while, and then maybe with a family member or another friend after that. This dude sounds scary AF, no lie. OP answer. He goes to a mega church with a coffee shop in it but only on holidays. I told him I did not want to participate and only went with him because he begged for Easter. It was bigger than a 90s shopping mall with a shop and everything. Update 2. I actually forgot about my post, so I apologize. I didn't even realize so many of you messaged me to check in or offer kind words. A lot happened in a short time, but I will try to make it brief. Finn came to my home again, but I was not home. When my ring came, I saw him have a total fit. He was cursing me out, calling me on the phone, and when he got my voicemail he muttered, "I'm going to fucking kill her," over and over again, and said it super loud once before walking off. I have been getting a lot of hate mail, texts, and the like calling me a murderer. My Facebook was flooded with these messages as well, and most of the profiles were people who went to Finn's church. So I sent him a text that either the harassment stops or I will post the recordings of him. All of them. The call, his threats, the texts, his voicemails. All of it. He replied, "I have been patient in my love for you, but you are being a brat." And went on to say that I need to come to my senses and meet with him, because he will no longer spoil me, and Discipline needs to be introduced to our relationship, because actions have consequences. As for the rest, I will skip over a bit for the sake of brevity. My bestie said that I should go to the police, and we did, but nothing concrete has come of it yet. Something I low-key expected, honestly. It's a small little city outside a bigger, more populated one, and the small town vibes can run deep in certain circles. Many of the people go to the church Finn is at, and that includes a lot of the police department. It came to a head last week when I sent some of the recordings to his parents, who are on staff at the local mega church in the area. His mom responded and asked to meet with me, so I went with my bestie to a public spot in the city. When she met with me, she was incredibly apologetic and said that his position at the church is terminated. The staff will meet about this and decide on the full measure of consequences as his church family. She told me that she herself had an abortion before Finn was born, and her decision to do so came hugely from the fact that the father was manipulative and abusive, and she was not ready to be a mother even if she had a reliable and loving partner and co-parent. She went on to meet Finn's father and married him and had her children. She told me that she isn't sure if I had an abortion or miscarriage, but either way, I should not be harassed by Christians claiming to be pro-life. I can't explain to you the relief those words gave me, considering the vile that was messaged to me. Finn's sister reached out to me via text to share that she does not condone what her brother has been doing, and to reach out if I needed anything. Finn later was arrested for assault. I came to find out, but I don't know who he assaulted or why. Just that he was taken into custody, and as he put me down as his partner, I was called to pick him up as he had been released. The running assumption is that he kept him sober up before releasing him. I didn't. I have since been looking for a new place to live, as he knows my address and has come by more than a couple times. I am staying with two of my best friends away from my town, and my home is more or less storage for my things until I find a place to move. All things considered, I am actually really happy. My friends threw me a Yeetus that fetus party and decorated the place with the troll comments from my last post. They made a piñata with scrapped paper with his texts and that of his church pals, and instead of candy it had condoms, small bottle of lube, and paper. That was my last surprise. They pooled together a nice-sized donation to reproductive health clinic near my city, and they pledged hours to volunteer. We are taking a summer trip together to have a hot girl summer kickoff and have many things planned. The two male friends I am staying with check on my house for me and saw Finn there once and made it clear under no uncertain terms that I was protected, and that if he tries to make more trouble, that actions have consequences. I have it recorded on my ring cam and it was glorious. Finn sent me a text telling me that I am a cruel witch that ruined his life and broke his heart, all because he loved me, but to not trouble myself with acting, scared of him more because he is leaving the state soon for a new job anyway. He did end the message with, "I have, do, and always will love you, and perhaps one day your cold heart will melt and you can find within it your buried love for me." Like, bro, take the sugar out of your Kool-Aid because I ain't drinking it anymore. Not to say everything is sunshine and roses. I have been in a lot of therapy, and found that I overlooked a lot of red flags and have to unlearn a lot of people's pleasing behaviors to become a more confident and true version of myself. Plus, my friends don't really fully believe he is leaving town, so I am still staying with them for the time being. I love them a lot, but it's like having 4 older siblings fussing about like mother hens. I cannot wait to have my new place. Thanks to you all for the kindness and support. I think this is my last update on the matter, as I don't intend on wasting any more time than I have to on that abusive price of garbage. Remember, you know yourself best and can love yourself best. Life is too short not to make the right choices for yourself, your well-being, and your happiness, because you matter. Comments Aqua Venatus. I'm glad your ex's mother and sister are on your side, and I'm glad you have friends who are looking out for you and your safety. I know you don't want to, but keep all of the disgusting messages your ex sends you, because now that he's been charged with assault, the next time you file a police report against him, they'll have no choice but to take it seriously. Meanwhile, continue your healing process, and I hope you'll have peace soon. I'm glad you're safe. Final update. Sorry, but the phrase is still funny to me. All caught up? Great. So I moved. I took a pay cut and moved to Austin. I can say that now free of worry because Finn? Well, he's in prison. For murder. I know a disjointed rendition of what happened. Finn got drunk out of his mind at a local bar, then shit-talked a retired Marine because the Marine spoke about his wife's abortion. I had since gotten a new job in Austin, Texas, and was moving when I heard. Finn's father asked me to testify to his character and to say my abortion caused this. I obviously didn't. I moved with only the essentials and had a wonderful summer traveling with friends. I just got back last week and am now unpacking my new home. Unrelated, but Austin is a fun freaking city. When I got back and logged on, I saw a lot of you were concerned about my safety, so I wanted to update. I'm totally okay, already have new friends, and am going to adopt possibly the cutest little senior Yorkie. I am literally in the waiting room where they will bring him out after he gets all his medical out of the way. I am also in the virtual queue for an adult Rottweiler, and it sounds like I might get her. So I may have her by the time the work week begins. Anyway, I wanted to say thanks to everyone who was supportive, and also I admit to rubbing my happiness in the face of the trolls who wished me misery. I am petty. Sue me. Ciao. Relevant comments, lost. Advertising 232. New and happy beginnings. Cheers, OP answer. It's exciting and the people here are so sweet. For the first time in a long time, I am really looking forward optimistically. Loser swim. I feel like there were a lot of things he did that we don't see. OP probably had a hard time differentiating her post-traumatic stress disorder reactions from normal healthy reactions. He does something cruel and she can't decide if she's seeing his actions as cruel because of post-traumatic stress disorder, or because he is cruel. Prestige. No love. It's weird that people are focusing on the abortion even though he raped her. Like he legit took the condom off with false pretenses, and that's one of the definitions of rape. I'm glad she's safe, but I hate that she got so much hate in the first place. Also, he is talking about how Christian he is, but he wanted a baby out of wedlock. He just wanted to control a woman's body, even though she explicitly said she didn't want kids. Salt pipe. Warner, 89. Also, a lot of people are missing some obvious points about the vasectomy. A lot of heartache could have been avoided here if OP knew that vasectomies don't work that way. He was only able to manipulate her because she didn't know the facts. So in case anyone else is reading for whom this would help, vasectomies are not really reversible. You have to sign a form acknowledging this when you get one. While there is an operation that can attempt a reversal, the success rate is low, and gets lower as time goes by. Vasectomies don't take effect immediately. It can take months until you're sterile, and there is always a follow-up check. It's not a valid form of birth control until after the check. This varies by individual, but vasectomies are generally uncomfortable. It's unlikely that someone who just had one will be up for anything for a little while. My stepfather murdered my mother before taking his own life. I'm overwhelmed, lost, and unsure of how to move forward. I know this doesn't sound real. I have my boyfriend and my best friend here. I've known this for about 2.5 hours. It still doesn't seem real. I don't really know what I want to accomplish with this post. But I swear it is real. It's 3:51 a.m. in Berlin right now. We were trying to finish watching the movie that we started before the police rang at my door. I don't know what to do. Edit. The police just called me. My stepfather killed himself. I wish I could destroy him. Right now I just feel empty. Edit 2. I don't even know why I'm posting here. I'm usually just a lurker. I guess I just want somebody to know. I feel like the whole world should know. My mother is the most amazing person and she has always been my idol. I don't know how to feel. I'm in our apartment, and I feel like everything I see is her. My evening started so differently. Everything started so differently. I haven't slept yet. I don't know how I will. Though sleeping is usually my talent. Mom wakes me up every afternoon if she feels like I'm sleeping too long. Since I moved back in, during the COVID lockdown. Update. Hello. My last post got capped, so I made a throwaway account. It's been about 24 hours since the police stood in front of the door to my mom's and my apartment and told me that my mother is dead. I've cried so much today, I feel like it's been an ocean of tears, so much that I just feel empty now. I miss her, so fucking much. It still just feels like a bad dream. This can't really be real. Her death was on the news and I saw a picture of a body in a blue body bag being rolled into the back of a wagon. That is my mother. In that bag. Oh my God. I'm going to run down what happened again. Maybe this will make it more real for myself? I don't know. My boyfriend and I were in the park playing speedminton on Wednesday evening when my mom called me and told me she would be coming home. I asked her if everything was okay and she said yes, not to worry about it, and my boyfriend was still welcome to come over if he liked. I told her okay, I would see her in a moment. We both went home and she wasn't there. I wasn't worried. My stepfather and my mom have been together for a while and they're very much in love, but they can fight a lot sometimes. They always make up very quickly. I tried calling her several times to know if she wanted dinner and sent her text messages, and texted and called my stepfather as well. They didn't answer. This wasn't so unusual either. I thought they just made up. I'm guessing by this time he had already stabbed her. I feel sick writing this sentence. The police showed up at 3 in the morning, informed me, Stayed in the apartment while my boyfriend called my best friend who rushed over with a taxi. Everything is kind of a blur from then on. I remember sitting down to write the Reddit post because I didn't know how to feel or what to do, and I guess I wanted to scream my pain into the internet void. At that point, my stepfather hadn't killed himself yet. He had taken his car up into the countryside where my mother has a tiny little house at the lake which is her pride and joy. With her garden. Both of them went up there every weekend together. He killed himself there. The fucking bastard. I've never been so angry in my life. I loved him, he was a part of my family, we got along really well. Some part of me wishes I could strangle him. Or scratch his eyes out. I just want to scream in his face, how he could do this to me. To her. My lovely mother. Fuck, she is such a fucking light, she is such an incredible person and we are so close. I told her everything. And not just because she's my mother, she is truly an absolutely amazing person. Everybody who met her loved her. I stayed awake until about 6 a.m. I smashed a few glasses, I cried a lot. We finished watching the movie. Today I had to call all of the people. My grandparents, her brother, her friends. I had to call my stepfather's children in the UK and tell them what happened. I can't imagine how hard it must be for them. My mother was the victim. Their father was the murderer. I feel so bad for them. I've gotten so many calls and messages from people who are offering to help me in any way I need, who cry on the phone and ask me if this is real. To have to tell people over and over again what happened, really wrecked me. Especially my grandparents. My granddad. I don't know how he's going to get through this. He just kept screaming no no. Not my mom's name. I have to go to the police today to give a statement. Probably talk about their relationship. I have to be there in 412 hours and I haven't really slept yet. I can't really eat either. I just feel like throwing up, just thinking about food. I wanted to thank all of you for your comments on my first post. I know we don't know each other, that I'm just some faraway voice on a screen with a terrible fate. But I did feel better reading your hugs and encouragement. I will have to think about getting a lawyer. My dad is sleeping in the other room. We're going to have to figure out how to get here. Some part of me honestly doesn't see a point anymore. There's so much pain in my life. I've had so many bad experiences. I got through a rape and a drug problem and everything was on its way up. And now this. But I love my mom more than anything, and I can't disappoint her and I'm going to need to be here for my dad and me. I'm sorry for the long text, I just feel like I need to get something out. I feel so lost and empty. I miss my mom. Update. Hello. I guess in some way I wanted to give you people an update on what has been going on with me. When I posted my first post, I was slightly drunk. It was the night the police showed up at my house and rang the doorbell and I was confused. All of your messages from random strangers, helped me in some way. I'd like to thank whoever sent me that poem by Mary Elizabeth Fry. Do not stand at my grave and weep, we used that for the invitation to her party. And also Bianca who painted that beautiful painting of her which she sent me by email. Thank you. The poem by Mary Elizabeth Fry. Do not stand at my grave and weep, I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sun on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry, I am not there. I did not die. Also, fair warning, this might be quite a long post. This might trigger someone and I've been writing this post over several days as more information keeps trickling in and the picture of that night is becoming clearer and clearer. I think I'm also mainly writing this for myself. What happened that night, the 23rd of July, is just still so surreal. I'm sitting at my mother's desk right now, in her little office in our apartment that I grew up in Berlin. Her presence in some way is all around me. It has been 23 days since the police showed up in front of my door at 3 in the morning and asked if they could come in. Since my stepfather hung himself. Everything has been so confusing, it's all sort of a mixture between crying, screaming, yelling, throwing things, and just emptiness. I go through phases. Someone linked that famous post about grief and God, it's so accurate. And it's really hard to cope. Since that night I haven't ever actually been alone. This is somewhat exhausting to me in some ways but probably also very important. I'm going to go through the series of events and facts because I also want to set it right. Since in the media, since some of you found the articles online and connected the dots, there is so much false information, it's hard to believe. My mother and my stepfather were together for 8 years and he has only been living in Berlin since then. He has children from his previous marriage, that is all I will say. I am my mother's only daughter. He did not call me and confess to what he did, as many report. But he called some vaguely mutual friend who he walks his dog with sometimes. This was sometime after 11 p.m. At this point he was already up at the summer house. It takes about 1 hour and 45 minutes to get up there. This means my mother had been dead for about 2 hours. It says so in the police report as well. The summer house did not belong to my stepdad, but to my mom. She poured all of the little money she had, and renovated it by hand. It does not in any way belong to him. The police showed up at my mom's and my apartment late at night. They didn't know the address of where he might have gone and were also worried he might come and harm me since he had the keys to our apartment as well. I was watching a movie with a friend of mine. I posted on Reddit a few hours later. The news articles started coming out the next day, connecting my stepfather to a celebrity. I posted because I needed help. This celebrity and my stepfather are by no means friends. They are acquaintances and there is no reason for him to be brought into any of this. That was Wednesday night, Thursday morning. On Friday I was at the Landeskriminalamt, criminal police, and gave a 3-hour statement about them and their relationship. This next part is about my feelings and mainly about my mom. Feel free to skip it. Since then my whole world has been turned upside down. My mother, the person I honestly loved most in the whole world, was just torn from me. It feels like I have this big bleeding hole inside of me. I'm not crying all the time, sometimes I feel okay, but more like empty. My mother has been with me my whole life. The whole 21 years, and I'm not just saying this because she is dead. She is honestly the best mother you could wish for. She is goofy and caring. Her laugh is infectious. She has such integrity. She is the most animated person. When she tells a story she will get up from the table and gesture all around. Her eyes are so shining. I think I might show some pictures of her, because I want people to recognize her beauty. I want the whole world to know she is gone. Because this is an honest and devastating loss to the world, believe me. She is so talented. She got her bachelor in art history in America. She has worked odd jobs all her life. She's always been a hippie. When I was little she started working at this English language summer camp in Thüringen in Germany, and she used to take me there for many weeks with her. On a hill, on a farm in the middle of a giant forest. She's a magician in the kitchen. She can open the fridge door and magically make something out of leftover ingredients that nobody would ever think tastes good. Noodles and carrots, anyone? She likes to make everything herself. She would let milk go bad and make her own ricotta. I have 1,000 jars of her homemade chutneys and jams. She baked her own bread years before the pandemic. She made her own vinegar, her own syrups and alcohol, and her hot sauces are legendary. I used to come home and open the fridge door and I'd ask her which of the many bowls she had covered with little plates were edible and which weren't ready yet. Since she's dead I have found so many started experiments of things I don't even know what they are. I wish I could ask her. There are so many things I wish I had the time to ask her. Writing this is making me cry again. At the beginning of the pandemic, March I believe, I moved back in with her and she ordered 14 different bottles of white wine on Lidl, and every night we'd drink one together while we cooked and I'd write notes on the color and the taste and we'd give it a 1-10 on the Lidl scale. She's one of the funniest people I know. And she is so forgiving. Even when I was younger we would get into huge blow-up fights sometimes and we'd scream. But 5 minutes afterwards she'd come into my room and she'd apologize and tell me she loved me more than anything in the world. We told each other we loved one another all the time. Sometimes just randomly, and hugged each other. I'm so grateful for this. I would say we had a rare mother-daughter bond. I love her with all my heart. She has always been my idol, my role model. If I'm even half the person she is, as generous, hilarious, creative, emotional, forgiving and understanding, I will be lucky. I see her face in front of me all the time. I can hear her laugh. Fuck. I'd really give anything for her to be with me right now. Anything. It really tears me apart. If it weren't for her I would have probably been dead 2 years ago. She pulled me out of my dark holes. She loved me unconditionally. She isn't just my mother. She is my best friend. And I will never ever forgive him for taking her from me. Especially since more and more facts are coming out. End of emotional bit. It's important to preface that I knew their relationship, or to be more exact, I was the closest to both of them together. And it's important to understand that he wasn't some creepy, abusive, scary bad guy. I loved him. He was like a best friend to me. When he came into my mother's and my life, I took him in with open arms. I've confided in him, I've told him secrets, we've had running jokes. We made bets with each other that I usually won, and he had to pay up. He was my family. This makes me feel just as conned. I feel cheated. I feel like I've been blind. I've had bad fights with him as well, and I knew about their fights, but I didn't see this coming. Not even a little bit. I would never put my mother in harm's way. I guess this is why she must have kept things hidden from me. The murder happened in his apartment. They had separate apartments. And afterwards he drove his car up to my mother's country house that they both spent every weekend at. Hunting mushrooms, planting and building things, going swimming in the lake that's right in front of the door. This was their refuge, and I'm assuming this is the reason he went there. Since the day this has happened, I've always assumed he blew up about something, lost control, and he killed my mother while he wasn't clear-headed. This is what made sense to me. That he killed himself because he killed my mother. Because he didn't know how to continue. But the more time goes by and the more facts we uncover, we being my mother's friends and I, not the police, the more it seems it was the opposite. That he killed my mother because he wanted to kill himself. And that he was covering something up. Since the night the police showed up, they've been asking me if I could know where their laptops are. They both had a laptop. And both are missing. They found the empty cases. But they're gone. This sparked suspicion in us. His phone is gone as well, my mother's is not. The police gave it to me. Then there are the other facts. Trigger warning. Despite what it said in the media, she didn't have multiple stab wounds in her chest. There was only one very precise and very small wound that caused her death. He only let someone know what he did after he was up at the house. When he arrived at the cabin, he apparently parked normally, even greeted one of the neighbors. The pieces are falling into place. That this was cold-blooded. I don't really know why I'm writing all this down in a Word document and why I'm going to post it on Reddit, but I need to share. I feel so much hatred and so much anger. I feel it boiling underneath my skin and it keeps threatening to come out. I've smashed so much stuff. I've gotten so angry. Sometimes I snap and I scream at people, and other times I just cry and beat my pillows. And sometimes I'm very calm. I can still feel joy. And my mother has this amazing circle of friends that I've known my whole life and who are supporting me. I saw her body in the coffin, and I will never be able to get that image out of my head. She was so tiny, it breaks my heart. I've also slept 2 nights at the cabin, and in the dark every shadow looked like my stepfather. I've become scared and started locking my doors at night. Murder used to seem something so far off. Something that happened to other people, in a different world, separate from mine. But now it's not. And I won't let him spoil her place, her house. I won't let him take that away from her and from me. I refuse. I just miss her. I miss everything about her. It hasn't been that long yet, and all I want is for her to hug me and say my name and say she loves me and that she thinks I'm an amazing young woman. I want her to cuddle with me in bed, which she did for so many years until I felt myself too old. I want to sit at the kitchen table in the morning with her and have her ask me what I dreamt about last night, and have both of us talk about our dreams. For her to talk with me about my story ideas and my poetry, and to talk with her about the book that she was writing and will never finish. It just hurts so much. I don't know how to ever get past this. She has always been the most amazing person I know, and I can't get over this. I don't know how to get over this. I feel lost. I feel like I have to grow up very fast now and carry her with me. There's so much more to tell. So much. But I should probably stop somewhere. I would appreciate all advice. Thank you for reading. Relevant comments. Commenter. It's 23:40 and now I just want to call my mom. I'll do that in the morning when I wake up. She's my only family since we cut ties with pretty much everyone else. Be brave and take your time to recover. I hope everything will be fine for you after some time and that you'll get even stronger after this terrible event. OP answer. Hi, you're in the same time zone as me. Please do this and tell her you love her. From me. Because I wish I could tell my mom lots of love. Commenter. Hello again. I commented on the original post because I went through something so similar. I want to thank you for the update. It couldn't have been easy to write. But more than that, I'm glad to see you on Reddit just to know you're still around. The part of this post that most struck me was you spending time in the cabin. I remember the days in my father's house after his murders and suicide so vividly, and looking back on it, I wish I hadn't gone there at all. Which leads me to this. You don't have to do things the hard way. You don't have to make things harder on yourself. When grief as raw and shocking as what you've experienced takes over, we sometimes want to swim in it, because at least feeling something is better than remaining numb, feeling hollow. But I want to lovingly and gently encourage you to make sure you're taking care of yourself. I also want to reiterate how useful a trauma-informed therapist can be. I was dead set against therapy after my father's crimes happened. I thought I could handle everything on my own. After all, I'd always been the strong one. I waited a year to find a counselor, and if I could change a single thing I did, it would be that I'd have sought out help sooner. I didn't really know how to ask for help at the time. It took me years to learn how, but it would have been immeasurably useful to have someone help me through all of that. Like you, I was in my 20s when my father killed his girlfriend, her daughter, then himself. That was 16 years ago. There is a life on the other side of all of this trauma and heartbreak. I promise. And the book I just finished writing about was finally handed in on the last day of July. Maybe someday it can help you, and others. I have thought of you many times since your first post. My offer to reach out at any time stands. Any time. Edited to add. Quite a few people asked about the book in this thread and via DM. It's with my agent now, so at earliest it would be out in a year. Books take forever. The title is, We Run to Crush the Grass. Thank you for the interest, but please focus on OP. She needs the love and kindness of strangers. OP answer. You especially. You have helped me so much, Lisa. Thank you so much. You've been such a light in these dark times. Advising me. Listening to me. Checking up on me since my first post, and listening to me complaining about my family. You're such an amazing person, and communicating with you has helped me so immensely. I send you so much love, and I will continue being in contact with you. I can't wait for your book, commenter. You must have inherited your mother's writing talent because your story about her was so beautifully told. I agree with the others who gently suggest you speak with a therapist trained to deal with trauma. They can help you with your anger and other feelings and thoughts as they arise, so you can be guided to a proper healing. My heart goes out to you, and, if you will, I'll pray for 1,000 healing angels to surround you. OP answer. The night the police showed up at my door, at about 4 a.m. it started raining even though it wasn't supposed to. I went outside on the street and I started praying to every god there was, even though I'm not religious. But in these moments it really doesn't matter, you just want something higher to help you. Thank you so much, OP added in this thread. Hey everyone. Imagine my surprise scrolling through Reddit on my living room couch this fine afternoon, when I see a little picture of my mom and me in my feed. Was not expecting that at all, and then to look further down and see all of these wonderful and heartfelt comments underneath. I couldn't believe it, and I actually started crying again. This is the reason I reached out back then, into the void, as I called it, at my darkest time, and Reddit reached back and gave me something to hold on to. When you lose your faith in humanity in that way, I needed the love that came from so many strangers all over, and the support. Yesterday was actually my birthday. I just turned 25, so it has been a bit over 3 years, and I can't believe that 3 years have passed. I can't stand to believe that much time has passed without her. Thinking about it makes it hurt more. I miss her so much. Thank you to everyone for worrying about me and wishing me well. I'll give a quick update, and one of these days maybe sit down and write something more out. I've been in therapy for almost 2 years now, and I have a wonderful therapist that helps me greatly. It took me a while to find her, and there was a lot of trial and error with former therapists, but she's amazing and I'm so happy I have her. She actually says that I have improved greatly. In a number of things, I'm a mess. Though my mother's murder is something that I've buried very deep down below in the darkness of my psyche, and we haven't quite reached it yet. I really hate my stepmother, and I don't know how to tell my dad about it without causing a big issue. I'm feeling very stuck right now. Hey, this might be a long one. I'm sorry. It is too long. I didn't read at the bottom. I really don't know what to do about my situation, and I don't have anyone close to give me advice, so I thought here I can maybe get some advice. I have an amazing dad who raised me since my mom passed away when I was 5 years old. He is my friend, my supporter, and someone who I want to be like when I grow up. When my dad first introduced my stepmom to me, I was 10 years old. And she was very nice to me, and he looked so happy that we met and hoped we could get along. They got married when I was 13, and I was so happy that my dad and I had a new member in our family. I thought me and stepmother were getting along until I think a few months after their honeymoon she told me one morning that we just need to pretend to like each around my dad, but when he is not here that I shouldn't bother her. Honestly, this shattered me, but I agreed cause I didn't know what else to do. After that day, whenever it was just me and stepmother, she would say things to get to me, and I would just not say anything. I'm introverted and don't like confrontation, so I just took it and thought over time she would get over it, but it got worse. She would talk about my height and weight and say I was a funny-looking version of my dad. I hoped my dad would notice, but he didn't. He actually thinks me and stepmother are so close and she understands me. He looks so happy with her that maybe it's worth not saying anything and giving it time. This year my stepmother has started picking on me around my dad, and he has either joined in or ignored it. I have voiced that what she says makes me uncomfortable and hurts, but my dad says she is teasing and doesn't mean it to hurt me. Well, right now, I'm at my ends and I'm scared, I'm angry, frustrated at my stepmother and my dad. Dad was away for work and it was just me and stepmother at home. She had a party at home with a couple of her friends. I helped set the house up and cook dinner cause Dad asked me to help out, which was fine. After they ate and just hung out, they were hanging out on the porch when I heard stepmother and her friends talking very loudly outside my window while I was in my room. Stepmother friends talked about how lucky stepmother was to have a nice husband and a house. When they mentioned how nice it was that I cooked for them, stepmother told them that I was annoying and weird and she hated me and living with me and couldn't wait till I was 18 to kick me out. I was shocked that she hated me that much, but I didn't know why. TBH. I thought we were tolerating each other. But to hate me I must have done something, but I can't think of what I did. I've been kinda down since that day, which was 2 weeks ago, and I thought I was past the initial feelings, but at rugby training today I bursted into tears and my coach sent me home, so I drove to a beach and cried. I feel so much I honestly can't describe my emotions. I eventually fell asleep in my car. Now I'm here hoping I can get advice on how to talk to my dad about it, cause I'm scared about how he will react. I don't want my dad to be sad cause he does so much for me, but I'm not strong like him. I'm really struggling. My question is, how can I approach this conversation with my dad about my stepmother hating me? Or should I tell him at all? Too long. Didn't read. I heard my stepmother tell her friends she hates me, and I want to tell my dad about it but don't know how. Edit. Someone questioned my dad's age, and I'm sorry. But it was supposed to be 42, but I can't change it. Sorry. Thank you everyone that provided advice and kind words. It means a lot to me. I have read every comment and have an idea on how to approach this situation. I'm honestly terrified of the outcome being negative, but the encouragement and support are making this a bit easier to deal with. I am going to talk to my dad on Sunday and show him this post. I hope it goes well and I hope all of you stay safe and take care. Edit 2. I'm not sure what I am able to do what I planned, cause Amy just took my car keys away and she wants my phone, but I won't give it to her, so she is waiting for my dad to take it off me because apparently I'm doing drugs, but I told her I'm not. I've been at the beach. I'm not sure, but I just want it to stop cause I can't handle it. I'm sorry. Yep. Date 1. Okay, so my post was locked, but hopefully it's okay now. I've posted the link and tried my best with spacing. I'm on mobile. If I can't post it, I give up. For all the support and advice received, I really appreciate and wholeheartedly so grateful for all who DM me to see how I was. Thank you. This will be long because a lot has happened, but many things are still not resolved. Trigger warning. I will mention self-harm. So please, if it might trigger you, please don't read further. I wish I was able to say I followed the advice that was provided, and now everything is better, but some things in life don't play the way we want it to, and we can either let it destroy us, or make us better. After writing my edit where my stepmother was taking my things away and assuming I was on drugs, I started recording on my phone and she said a lot through the door, many things about my mom and me, and just plain hateful words that I don't want to repeat on here. I fell asleep while I was barricading the door with my body when my dad demanded that I open the door. At this point, I don't remember much of what happened, but my stepmother told me I had to leave the house, and my dad agreed. I didn't know who to call, but I decided to call my coach and he picked me up, and I was a crying mess. He didn't ask any questions but just told me that I was safe and if I needed to talk he was here for me. I stayed over one night when Dad picked me up. Stepmother was not at home when we got there. Dad told me we needed to talk. We had breakfast and my dad spoke to me about many things my stepmother told him, and I couldn't believe all the lies she told him. It was a long talk, but in summary it was my use of drugs and alcohol. How I disrespect her in our home. I don't do my responsibilities like chores at home. I'm nasty to her when Dad is not around. He asked me why I was acting like this, and if I had a problem with my stepmother I should have spoken to him. I let him talk, and when he was crying and asked if I had anything to say, I was so lost for words. I knew whatever I said my dad was on my stepmother's side. So I told him I wanted him to watch the recording of the incident that I can send through as an email attachment and the link to my Reddit post, and then we can talk more. I also said I didn't want to be here when he was reading and watching, so I'll go for a drive and he can text me when he's done and ready to talk. He was hesitant at first, but I told him it was important to me, so he agreed, and I left in my car to the beach and sent the email with the video attached and the link to my Reddit post. I don't know how long I waited, but many thoughts were going through my head. I was missing my mom so much, and what if my dad still sided with my stepmother? What can I do now? I fell asleep at the beach spot and was woken up by a police officer knocking on my car door and asking for my name. After confirming my name, he advised me to get out my car and to hand over my keys to him and to follow him to his car. He handcuffed me and assured me that I wasn't in trouble, But this was a welfare check cause someone made a call that I was possibly suicidal. I didn't talk after he told me that, and all I remember was just crying. He made me sit in the back of the police car until the ambulance came and they took me to the hospital. I was asked many questions and was evaluated and was told I was depressed and may have extreme anxiety. The physician did say I might have other things but will require further testing and some sessions with a psychiatrist. My dad came and visited me while in hospital, and when I saw him he looked really tired. When he spoke it sounded like he was crying, and he told me he called the police on me because the video recording I did, he heard everything my stepmother said, but he also saw cuts on my thighs and was scared, and thought the worst. Honestly, I never watched the video, so I didn't know my thighs were visible. After our cry we spoke about a few things. I told my dad that I don't feel comfortable living with stepmother after everything she said and done to me over the years, and I'm not sure I can handle being around her cause I don't trust her. We spoke about arrangements and knowing my dad still loves my stepmother and I didn't want him to choose between us. I told him that I could talk to Coach if I could stay with him, and after calling him he agreed. I've also been admitted to an agency that will support me cause I am mentally unwell. I have been to one session and waiting on another evaluation to be done on me and some testings with my general practitioner so they can diagnose me. I'm currently staying with my rugby coach who has been an amazing pillar. He has set out some house rules but I respect the fella and don't mind following them. My coach even set a date next week for me and dad to catch up on. My coach is an awesome dude. I thought of him as just a coach who just wanted our rugby team to win, but when he allowed me to stay over, he showed so much care for me. And I saw a side to him and understand how much he cares for my team. He has a lovely wife but I'm kinda anxious whenever it's just me and her at their house. That's it right now. My dad lives at home with my stepmother and is trying to sort that out. I have many appointments to get the help I need and a lot of schoolwork to catch up on and rugby training to attend. I've taken a leave of absence from my Macca's job. I'm gonna miss going to the beach for a while, but I understand that it's not a forever thing, so I hope that the next time I go there I'm not crying my eyes out. I'm kinda working on being okay if my dad and stepmother, after those of you who shared your similar experiences, someday I'll be okay. Thank you to all who advised me and encouraged me. Those who reached out through direct message. Thank you for the kind words and reaching out. I'm not sure if I'll update again, but maybe I'll let you know if something happens in the future. Take care everyone, also be kind to one another and most of all be kind to yourself, cause you deserve it. Too long. Didn't read. I showed my dad my Reddit post and recording of my stepmother being verbally abusive, and now I'm staying at my coach's house trying to sort out my mental health update too. Hope everyone has been doing well. I wasn't going to update at all, but many who reached out shared their stories and kind words. It truly helped me. I wish I was able to reply, but so many things were happening and I'm sorry. This will be a long one, but it's because this will be the last time, I hope. In my last post my coach sorted out time for me and my dad to catch up weekly. I've met up with my dad twice and this is how it went. First, catch up at the beach. We spoke and I told him a lot about what happened between me and his wife. I mentioned how she would treated me when he wasn't there, what she spoke to me after they got married and how she was awful to live with. I told him how I dealt with it for his sake cause I wanted him to be happy. I mentioned to him that I spoke with the coach about staying there until I go to university, and then I'll move away cause I cannot live with his wife anymore cause I'm not sure what I'll do. I'm never gonna try and get along with her anymore. He listened and was crying and asked if I would ever get over this. I told him no and I never wanted to see his wife and walked off cause I was pissed off at what he said and drove back to the coach's house. He messaged me later. I acted like a kid, and I responded, cause I am a kid. Second, catch up dinner at the coach's house. Second catch up, my coach invited my dad to have dinner and hang with me. My coach has a pool table in his man cave and a pool. I was excited to hang and catch up with my dad even after our last meetup cause I was feeling a bit better. But at the same time I was feeling anxious about the meetup, like I had a bad gut feeling. But I ignored it. Dinner went great, and me, dad and coach had fun playing pool. Later on that night the coach gave us space to talk. Dad talked about my mom and me as a kid. Just things he would tell me when I was a kid, and it was just me and him. It was fun, and I really enjoyed our time together. When it was time to go home I offered to drop him off since he drank, but he said his wife was here to pick him up, so I hugged him and he went. I kinda stayed in the garage and waited for her to leave so I could walk in the house, but I heard her say, "How's the little shit?" And I bolted out the door and told her to fuck off. Boy, was I not ready for the slap my dad gave me, but all I remember was swinging a punch at him and knocking him down and my coach pulling me off my dad. My coach told my dad and his wife to leave. After they left I told my coach I never wanted to see him again and texted my dad we were done. It doesn't end there. Last week I planned to not go to school on Friday and go for a drive up the line with a few teammates to just get away from everything. They ended up bailing, so I went by myself. I ended up driving to a lake and parking up and just chilling for the school day and just driving back home later on. When I got home at my coach's house, I saw my dad's car parked in the driveway and thought I would have to square up with my dad. When I parked up, my dad ran out the house and looked like shit. He looked like he cried for days and he started hitting my car, screaming to get out the car and tell him where I was the whole day. I thought he was mad that I wagged school, so he ripped the door open and hugged me so hard and cried. I had no idea what was happening or what he was saying, but all I could understand was, "I'm sorry, and I love you." After what felt like forever, he kinda calmed me down and I asked him why he was here. And then he told me there was an accident with a kid getting hit by a train. And it clicked, my dad thought it was me. He said when he heard the news he called the school and they said I was a no-show and called everyone he could think of. My mates said I went for a drive somewhere but didn't know where, and my dad said he lost it. He calmed down eventually and said he would divorce his wife if I wanted him to. But I told him he needed to choose that for himself. 'Cause the reason I stayed quiet was to make him happy. If he is unhappy, to make a choice for himself. 'Cause I don't want to be the reason he is unhappy, and that now I have to look after myself, and that is getting away from her. And he cried and just said, "More sorries." He ended up sleeping over in the same room as me that night and the night after, 'cause I think he was scared, and just trying to deal. I was okay with it and coach allowed it. He left after the weekend to sort himself out back at his home. I told him that where I am is good for me, and to not worry, and that I'll turn off Do Not Disturb on my phone so I could see texts. That's pretty much it, really. I don't know what my dad is going to decide to do with his wife, but I am definitely not ever going to associate with her. Ever in the foreseeable future. I love my dad too much to stop seeing him, but he knows my boundaries since I've set them out clear as day, and he knows as much as I love him. I will cut him off if I feel like it's not for me. I'm moving past what happened between me and my dad's wife for me, 'cause I'm tired of letting her beat me in my mind, so I just gotta work on myself. I'm currently happy staying with my coach and his wife. They have been amazing and have shown me so much love. They have awesome kids who I have met and they have invited me to their family Christmas. I feel bad that I feel anxious when I'm around the coach's wife, but I'm working on it with my therapist and I have a good support system. I know I want to go to university but not sure if I want to study commerce or law, but I know I am on track with my studies. I just can't afford to skip school anymore. Thank you to everyone who sent messages of support and reached out to share your experiences. Y'all gave me the strength to believe I could get out of this mess and be okay. And if you ever feel down, that there is help out there for you no matter where you are in life. I'm glad I shared on Reddit, 'cause I've learned so much about me and many things I won't forget and teach to my kids. Now I gotta go school. Take care and cheers. OP posted in Mom for a Minute on Sept 27/22 about turning 18. Can't repost from this sub. I hate that my current reality is that I don't have people I can rely on right now in my life. I am trying to do the best to survive and better my current situation. I've had so much happen to me this year and I feel like I can't afford to take time for myself, to catch a break, or else I'll lose what I currently have, which is not much. I know I'm young and have so much to look forward to, but it's hard. Like so hard to want to carry on when so much shit is going wrong. I'm trying to find a place to stay even in a flatmate situation to be more independent, but I can barely afford anything. My job offered me a better paying position at the expense of a full-time job, and even though I would love more money, that means I will have to give up my dream to go university. I know many people have had worse situations and honestly, I don't know how they found the will and help they got. It really feels like the world just hates me and I know I'm feeling sorry for myself, but I honestly giving up hope. What can I get the family I'm staying with for Christmas? I, 18 nem, feel indifferent about catching up with my dad, 42 male. I, 18 male, have a strained relationship with my dad, 42 male. A lot has happened this year between us and it really ruined our relationship. He was my best friend. Would be there for my rugby matches and push me to do my best. Earlier this year I had a fallout with my stepmom and my dad which caused me to move out of my home and in with my coach, 37 mem, who I call uncle. I have been here ever since. We did try to mend our relationship but harsh words were exchanged and I stopped reaching out and focused on passing my exams. I have worked hard on myself by working at my job and helping out at the place I'm staying. I have made some sort of peace about my situation and focused on my future. Now my dad reached out last night to meet up with him to hang and we planned it for next year on the 4th of Jan. I agreed, and that was that. My uncle talked to me about what me and my dad spoke about. He was kinda worried about my feelings about meeting my dad because of my feelings towards the day. I explained the best I could, is that I just feel indifferent about my dad right now. I am not excited or scared about this meeting, I just see it as a date. I'll be seeing him and that's it. Whether we meet up or not, I'm not bothered by it at all. My uncle and his wife care a lot and have done so much for me, so I care about what they say. They think I should have a reason to meet up with him since I haven't spoken to him in a while and worried I could get hurt. Should I have a different mindset towards catching up with my dad? Too long, didn't read. Dad planned to catch up next year for me and him. We had a fallout, so my uncle thinks that I should be feeling something, but I feel indifferent. A commenter asks how it went. Okay, this reply took a while because I wasn't ready to share, but I'm okay for now. My dad turned up with stepmother and told me that they were having a kid. I congratulated them and we spent time talking about my future and dad telling me he can pay for my university studies as long as I keep my grades up. We spoke about a lot and then we said our goodbyes, and I left. I wasn't able to drive home because I started crying and had to call my uncle to come pick me up. It's been a few weeks since the meeting and now I'm not sure about my feelings about everything but focusing on getting ready for uni, so I'm working a lot more. My uncle and I are planning to go check out his other house that was affected by floods, so that's something to look forward to because I need a change of scenery. Thanks for checking on me, it means a lot. You'll do well, OP. Go out there and be successful for yourself. Your uncle and wife are really a gem. That's a couple you need to return the favor or love one day. So have you decided what major you will do in uni? OP. Most definitely. They are honestly the best support I have and I am forever grateful to them both for sharing their home, family and love. Sometimes I wonder why they do it and they always remind me it's because they care and love me, which means a lot. For uni I am going for a bachelor's in commerce, majoring in commercial law and accounting. Very excited about it and looking forward to it. It will take some years but that's okay for me right now. The father is not leaving the stepmom and OP is working to move forward. I'm flaring this concluded.